Beach, let's see, this is the Pompano Beach Community, no, City of Pompano Beach and the Pompano Beach Community Redevelopment Agency joint special meeting. April 30th, 2025, right about 6 p.m. Let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fezzik.
Here.
Commissioner Perkins.
Here.
Commissioner Segerson-Eaton.
Here.
Commissioner Smith. Vice Mayor Fournier.
Here.
Mayor Harton.
Here. Now, if I could ask everyone to please put their cell phones on silent or vibrate mode, that way we don't get disrupted during the meeting, that would be ideal. Thank you for that. Let's go ahead and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Kervin Alfred, City Clerk.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Harrison, any changes to our agenda tonight?
No, sir.
Very good. Can I get a motion approving the agenda as printed?
So moved. Second.
Moved and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Ms. McKenna. Oh,
Thank you, Mayor.
absolutely.
So, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the commission, and everybody here and watching at home, I want to tell you about an attorney named Paul S. Buckman. He was the city attorney for Plant City for 42 years. Now, you might think Plant City is not a very big city, but Paul Buckman was a giant among city attorneys. His contributions to municipal government were so significant that the city, county, and local government section, pardon me, of the Florida Bar decided to honor distinguished city attorneys in his name. So this is what the chair of the city, county, and local government section said this past Thursday about this year's recipient. The Paul S. Buckman Public Service Award is awarded annually to a local government attorney for outstanding contributions in the area of legal public service. Now, if you have spent even 5 minutes with this year's recipient, you would wholeheartedly agree he is absolutely deserving of this award. He is always willing to listen, talk, and help no matter what. He has been involved with the section for many years and has been on the executive council for nearly a decade. He willingly serves in any capacity, and I am truly thankful for him and his contributions. And so, it is with great pride that I announce to you and the residents of the city of Pompano Beach that our own city attorney, Mark Berman, has been honored by the Florida Bar with the Paul S. Buckman Award for Legal Public Service.
All right.
Mayor,
Very good. Thank you for this. That is excellent. Yes. Thank you, Claudia, for making that presentation. Now, Mr. Berman, if I could, meet me down here. I usually never leave my seat here. You got it. You got it.
so did Pete.
We'll meet at the midway point. Mr. Berman, congratulations first off. Thank you so much for your service to the city of Pompano Beach over these many, many years, more than we can count. I tell you, that's a joke. But seriously, this is indeed an honor. So please, on behalf of all of us, please accept this, a small token of our appreciation. I know there's more involved with that, but it's truly a distinguishing fact that we have a city attorney who's been named on an honor like this, and it's fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Berman.
Thank you very much.
Say a few words?
Sure.
Okay, say a few words.
Well, now the pressure's on, huh? Well, thank you very much. It's been a joy, and it continues to be a joy. Challenging at times, but certainly worth it. I appreciate the professional responsibility of working with all of you and those who have come before you in those seats, and look forward to more service in the future. So thank you very much. You guys got me really good here. I didn't expect this, so thank you for your recognition and your appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Mark. Oh, sorry. Back this way. Sandy said, nope, we got to do the photo.
There you go.
Okay, I should have worn a tie.
That's what I said when they gave me the award. I should have wore a tie.
Well, it's your award, not mine.
I
So,
didn't-
yeah, so you got the tie.
I didn't expect it.
All right. Congratulations, Mark, and on behalf of all the residents of the city, thank you so much for your service once again. All right, that takes us up to our regular agenda. Item 1. Who's going to announce it?
She's got a mouthful of liquor. They gave me an award. I might as well read it. Downtown Development Project Update and Presentation. Update from the architect HOK on the City Hall and parking deck design, discussion of proposed additional project elements, proposed master project resolution, proposed First Amendment to the Master Development Agreement, and discussion on the financing of the city and CRA obligation for the downtown.
Very good.
So
All right.
moved. Do we have to do?
Still moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Let's have a presentation. Ms. Sybil.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Suzette Sybil, Assistant City Manager. So we've been having a series of meetings with the community, but also joint meetings with the City Commission and CRA Board over the last few weeks. We had a joint meeting on April 7th, and of course last week we had our joint workshop with the City Commission and the CRA Board. At both of those joint meetings, we didn't require a vote or an approval on anything related to the downtown. This evening as well, we're not requiring any approval or votes of the City Commission. It's an update on the items that Mr. Berman just read into the record. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on the presentation, and we can go from there. So I did want to take this moment to just talk a little bit about what we did last June. So on June 20th, 2024, the City Commission and the CRA Board approved a master development agreement between the city, CRA, and Roca Point Partners to serve as our master developer for the city's downtown project. As part of that approval, the City Commission and CRA Board also approved a master plan concept for the downtown redevelopment area, including a series of mixed uses for the project. You also approved at that time a financing mechanism to fund the drainage infrastructure for the project in the form of a CRA bond. And finally, you approved private financing for the City Hall and the construction of a new City Hall and a new parking garage. And you approved private financing for that component of the civil obligations under the project. So what we are, again, I stated earlier, we're not requesting any votes this evening, but on May 14, 2025, we are going to be requesting certain votes and approvals of the City Commission and authorizations. So let's start with the approval of the master project resolution. Now, we have been meeting, the developer, myself, with Commissioner Perkins over the last few months, and out of those meetings, we've agreed to certain additional project elements to be added into the project, and we would have to finance those additional project elements, and I'll get into detail in a few minutes. We obviously discussed that at the workshop last Wednesday. We're also going to be requesting approval of the City Hall design and the parking garage design as well, as part of that master project resolution. Now, as I stated, you did approve the master development agreement last year, but because we're now recommending incorporating these additional project elements, we are requesting a First Amendment to the Master Development Agreement, which is the second bullet on your screen. And that amendment, it's not going to incorporate all of the recommended project elements, only the ones that impact Roca Point Partners, who's a party to the Master Development Agreement with the city. So again, I just wanted to distinguish the purpose of the Master Plan Project Resolution and the First Amendment to the Master Development Agreement. Next, we are going to be requesting authorization of the drainage infrastructure form documents. They will have not to exceed parameters, and I'll get into a little bit more detail on that in a few minutes. And finally, we are requesting approval of the City Hall garage public financing that incorporates the additional project elements. Now, I did state that last June, the City Commission and the CRA Board did approve us to utilize private financing to finance those obligations. We are now recommending that we utilize public financing, meaning that the city would issue the debt relative to providing the funding to construct the new City Hall and the parking garage, and of course we would incorporate those additional recommended project elements into that financing as well. So I did want to stop here for a minute because I just wanted to revisit our developers. We negotiated Roca Point Partners for about 6 months before we ultimately brought the Master Development Agreement to the Commission and CRA Board on June 20th, 2024. And obviously on both sides, we agreed to different obligations, us primarily being to finance the infrastructure through a CRA bond and obviously the new City Hall and parking garage to anchor the project. So we've been working very closely with them. They've been working diligently to execute their obligations to date. But, they're such a great partner. They have such great expertise. We really wanted to take a moment to just revisit with the Commission and the public some of their previous projects and projects that are actually currently underway in Georgia. So right now, I actually visited the Greenville project. They are building a new downtown or expanding their current downtown in Greenville. And you will see there the pads outlined in kind of that cream color on the screen. That's where we are in our project right now, right? We currently have control of about 49 acres in our redevelopment area. And I also wanted to highlight this slide because they have a lot of uses planned. It's a mixed-use project as well. They're going to have entertainment, food and beverage. They're going to have residential, grocery stores, et cetera, in this project, and office space. We don't want to forget the office space. But what I wanted to point out on the screen is in green, as part of this project to anchor this downtown, Roca Point Partners actually successfully completed a new county administration building to house the offices for Greenville County, and that was an integral part of anchoring that development. As part of that project, they've been very busy. Like I stated, it has a mix of uses. There were so many slides I could have shown tonight in their progress on this project. They've signed a number of leases relative to restaurants, retail, grocery, office. Office will be the next component. That's to come next because office usually comes last once you've anchored the development with all of these other uses. But they're really making strides, and a lot of these uses, as you see here, we plan to have in our downtown as well. Again, this is Agave. It's a Mexican restaurant that they've signed a lease with under food and beverage category up in Greenville as part of that project. This is Fleming's. It's a high-end steakhouse up in Greenville as well, so a great addition to the project. Another restaurant, The Perch. And these are just a number of entertainment venues that they brought into that project that they've already signed as tenants. So again, a lot of activity going on there, very similar to what we're expecting them to do in our master plan concept for downtown Pompano Beach. This is Pins Mechanical. It's actually where they have, I've never heard of this, but duck pin bowling. They have arcades there, and just a lot of fun activities for the family, to enjoy. So it's a great addition to the Greenville project there as well, and certainly we're looking to them to infuse some of these elements into our downtown master plan. Residential, an important component of Pompano's downtown. We've spoken about that on several occasions. This is their Halcyon project. I also visited their Halcyon project up in Alpharetta, up in Georgia. And on the left, beautiful townhome projects, and on the right, you see on the top there and on the bottom, it's their multifamily rental addition to the Halcyon project. This is their project up in it's called Campus 244. It's up in Dunwoody, Georgia. It's 380,000 square feet of office space. They've already leased up the majority of that space, as you can see by the levels there. So again, it's 380,000 square feet. They only have about 64,000 square feet to go. And the great thing about this office space, it's a very modernized office space. And it has a hotel on the site, and it has several food establishments. And again, just creating that new mantra for what the office working environment will look like and should look like in the future. And of course, we're planning very similar mix of uses in our downtown in Pompano Beach. These are some of the headquarters they have signed already. You have Inside Transportation Inside, excuse me, and then Insight Global, which is a staffing solutions and recruitment firm. And then Morgan Stanley, of course, anchors their development up in Halcyon. Okay, I'm going to have Mr. Leonard get up now and talk a little bit about the next few slides.
Thank you. Patrick Leonard, Roca Point Partners. Suzette asked me to talk a little bit about innovation and the technology on some of our other projects. Halcyon, we partnered with Comcast, and we were actually the first 10 gig fiber neighborhood in the country. Comcast actually put hotspots throughout the project, and on 135 acres, you can have a Wi-Fi seamless Wi-Fi throughout the project, and it turned out really well. We also had to run multiple fiber projects for Morgan Stanley because, you know, a company like that wants at least 4 independent fiber coming into their building, and we had to do the same thing on 244. In Greenville, it's probably the most advanced project in the country. I'd say we partnered with Duke, and we're doing a 15-way redundant power system, 50 megawatt power system throughout the project, redundancy. And then we partnered with AT&T, Charter, and Spectrum to do a 9-way redundant 10 gig fiber network throughout the project. So this is all buried, all in concrete with all manholes, so you never have to dig up the road. And basically, it's good for the next 50 years. So it's incredibly advanced technology that we can implement in this type of project. So as we go forward, you know, those are the types of things that you can really help, and it does help attract tenants when you have multiple redundancies on power and fiber and things like that. I don't know if you want to talk about this or you want me to.
So as Patrick stated on the previous slide, you know, our downtown, we dubbed it Innovation District previously because we've envisioned it to be a technology hub and to attract great headquarters focused on that industry. But the great thing about our downtown is there's obviously a mix of uses, right? And when you have a mix of uses, that serves to stabilize your development, right, from a tax standpoint. So that's a great factor. I did want to point out on this slide that we do have an opportunity zone in our Innovation District. We actually have 2 of them in the city of Pompano Beach. A few of you on the commission may remember that back in 2018, Mayor Lamar Fisher applied through Rick Scott's office to designate certain census tracts in the city of Pompano Beach as opportunity zones. And that's an advantage because that creates another incentive to attract the private sector to want to invest in this area because there are tax incentives that are provided in opportunity zone tracts. So again, we laid the foundation for that back in 2018. Patrick?
So as you know, the CRA has done a wonderful job of assembling almost 50 acres of land downtown. We wanted to give some context before the architects talked. This corner of Atlantic and Dixie, the CRA has done a wonderful job of basically controlling about 16.5 acres. There is some right-of-way in there that will need to be abandoned, but this is a very large contiguous piece, which is one of the reasons we, you know, cited the City Hall on it. With this, obviously, Pat Larkins is on one side, City Hall's on the other side, and as we go through, these are 2 of the first things that, you know, obviously some decisions need to be made on. So obviously when Pat Larkins decisions are made, but we're also looking at the other side of this, the 2 corners of these are important, you know, civic functions. We've always talked about this area would be, you know, kind of a focal point, the heart, you know, green space activated. So we are focusing our energies on this area right now. We do have Keith on board that's helping us do all the planning. With this, though, while they've done a great job assembling it, there's quite a few challenges that we're going to work on for probably the next year. We have to do some planning issues, zoning issues. There's an environmental issue we're going to clean up. There's some right-of-way issues. The new FEMA map, the blue is high-risk flood. The orange is lower-risk flood, but we have to raise the site. Keith's working on the stormwater management, the flood controls. So there's a lot of work to do, you know, over the next year, utilities, relocations, burying power lines, et cetera. So there'll be a lot of work going on as we do this. One of the questions came up last time about how we're going to access this, and there's a couple of plans for a new internal road system within this. They will be, though, dictated once we finalize City Hall and what happens with Pat Larkins and how this works. We do plan to have multiple access points on Martin Luther King, and that'll be more the primary access points. There will be an access point on Dixie, Atlantic, and 6th, but again, we're trying to not put the curb cuts right at Atlantic and Dixie because obviously there's some traffic issues there. But this will take shape over the next couple of months as we refine some of these other uses. But again, I think it's still a little bit early on this as we work through that. And again, I think what we're talking about today is, finalizing what we're going to do with the City Hall and the Larkins Center. We mentioned this last time, just from a timeline with HOK. We signed their contract at the beginning of February. So they spent the month of February, researching stuff, interviewing people, working through that. They spent most of March working through understanding stacking and placement, sizing, all that. We met last week to talk about the first pass at the concept. We thought that was a very productive meeting, really good feedback. We're going to take the next step today, but it's only been a week from last week, so we only had so much time. But they're going to talk about that, and that was really good feedback, so we're going to design it. And I think we're going to come back again in 2 weeks. This is a pretty short time frame to try to final that concept. But once we get the concept done, it's just a concept, right? We still have to do electrical, mechanical, plumbing, structural, envelopes, sustainability. We still have a lot of work to do over the next couple of months after that, once we kind of agree on the direction. Because our hope is, by the end of the year, we'll have a pretty well-baked plan that we can take out to market price, make sure all the pricing works, make sure we're working well. But there's a lot of work to do, once we all agree on the path on the concept. But again, the concept's the big focus for the next 2 weeks. So with that, I'm going to introduce Vance.
My name is Vance Cheatham. I'm a senior principal designer, architectural designer for HOK Architects, and I'm the lead designer on the project.
Good evening. I'm Stephen Burgos with HOK, also design director for interiors.
What I'd like to do is just go through a really quick explanation of the process that we're going through to make sure that we achieve the building that needs to work so well for the greater community. One of the things we first look at when we start a project like this is programming. And what that means for us architecturally is we interview all the individuals who work within a facility like this and really work hard to get an understanding of how this space needs to work, which areas are most important for public access, areas, things along those lines. This type of programming is what really leads us to the information we need to put the building where it needs to sit on the site and how it needs to work interacting with the general public. The next thing we do is the design process, and when we're doing the design process, we are looking hard at how the building addresses the public realm of the city, how it addresses vehicular traffic and pedestrian traffic, and in general how it weaves itself into the neighborhood that it's working with. So these are areas that we really pay a lot of attention to make sure that we are listening to the community and achieving the desired building results. We also look very carefully at how the building sits on the site and the outdoor spaces. This is something that's crucial to us. The building does not want to hit the ground really hard and then turn its back on the community. It really needs to weave itself in, as I said earlier. And one of the ways we achieve this is how we handle the planting and the exterior spaces around the building. We're looking very hard at using indigenous plants that are drought tolerant. We want things that look beautiful but are not maintenance issues. So we pay a lot of attention to that. We are also having a lot of research into the areas of outdoor furniture and the type of things that welcome people to an area like this and allow them to interact with the building and feel like it's welcoming to them. And then site planning is something else that we look at really carefully. This is a part of a overlay and then a district within that community and then an area within that also. And by planning and looking carefully at how we interact with different areas as far as the city is concerned allows this building to be a very important component within the city and really connect to the city the way it needs to. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So last week we were showing some preliminary images of the building, relatively straightforward images, but we heard a distinct message that this is a unique community, really wants to have something that really announces that Pompano Beach is a special place. So we're pushing the architecture just a little bit, and you can see with this, the shape that we've got here, this is the view as if you were standing on the corner of Dixie and Atlantic. So we have a kind of a radiused front that faces towards Dixie, and then you can see on the Atlantic side at the actual intersection, there is a small sort of pocket park here. This is a very important component within the building. Once again, this is how the building kind of addresses the street. We are showing it right now as if it's designed to be a memorial of some type. This is still a very fluid idea. We are still figuring out what this wants to address, but fundamentally what we're achieving here is a type of planting that's friendly, still welcomes people. It could accommodate a memorial, as we're talking about, or potentially a sculpture, which you're seeing kind of in the curved shape that is actually on the corner. You can also see that the building is slightly lifted up off the ground and has a kind of a glassy face. What we're doing with this type of thing is we're projecting the message that this is a public building, it's welcome to all, and that glassiness sort of reinforces that aspect of it. A couple of the other things that we're addressing in this is you can see in the background, kind of on the right-hand side of the image, we're looking at a screening device that would work with the parking deck here. This is one of several ideas that we're playing with. The idea is this is a membrane or fabric type structure that would be attached to the face of the parking deck and add some color to it. This also would probably incorporate some exterior lighting also. Let's go to the next image. So now we've come to the other side of the building. This is the side of the building that connects to the park area that Patrick touched on earlier. So this is immediately adjacent to a very public realm within the complex. A lot of the area that you're seeing directly in front of the building here is paved. This is not going to be as paved as much as this is showing. The reason we're kind of showing it like this is really it's a placeholder. There is a lot of planting involved with this area, but we remove that just so we can see the building as architects, so we can understand the direction that it's going in. The kind of curve shape that you see with the vertical sort of beams being expressed on the face, that is actually the chamber area. One of the things that we understand is this first floor of this building really needs to function as far as embracing people when they come into the building and going to the departments that they need to connect with. So this is the largest floor in the building. The upper floors are relatively simple and straightforward, but this is a very important floor. We have a double height entry as you first walk in, and we will explain that a little bit later in the presentation. But this curved area you're seeing is the chamber. And one of the things that we think we're giving the exterior of the building a certain dynamic is the curve of the chamber is reflected in a slight curve on the face of the skin of the building here. And the idea is that it's very similar to a natural shape that you see a lot of times when water is flowing around, like a stone in a river or an object along a coast where water curves it and sort of carves it into a very natural curvilinear shape. Adjacent to that is the main entrance into the building. The other thing that you see here on the immediate left is, once again, the fabric sort of sculpture that is on the parking deck to kind of mask the parking deck but still call attention to it. This is still a relatively fluid idea too. One of the things we're looking at is something that was reminiscent of sails. But as we were playing with it a little bit more, it also had a sort of an aesthetic that we thought looked almost like a tropical plant, like a flower, like a bird of paradise bloom or something like that. And so that's why we're kind of looking at this color scheme. Once again, this is early in the process. We have probably 3 or 4 ideas on how we want to work with the parking deck. The last thing I would touch on really quick is we understand the parking deck serves not only people who are going to City Hall, but who are engaging this entire neighborhood. We do have a covered walkway, though, that keeps you out of weather, blowing rain, as you would park in the parking deck and be able to walk into the City Hall. So let's go ahead and move to the interiors.
Last but not least, as Vance mentioned, some of the design principles that we want to incorporate with the project, this building being welcoming, accessible, really showcasing the vibrancy of the community. This is, again, kind of an initial concept for the building lobby. We want it to be grand, that double height space, really bringing the natural light and the greenery from the outside into the space. Activating that lobby, we heard a lot of feedback about bringing the community in and utilizing this space throughout the day, not only for staff in the building, but also residents in the community. Large welcoming check-in desk, and really making sure that all those public functions and departments that residents would interact with in the building are located on that ground level. So making sure we have that one-stop shop, check-in desk and servicing readily accessible from the lobby, as well as direct access to the chambers. The activated moment in the view here is a concept or an idea of activating something digital and interactive that could showcase messaging and also kind of digital art. You're also alluding to maybe something sculptural hanging from the ceiling there, again, bringing in that idea of kind of public and local art into the lobby. And then last but not least, you see, punches of color and splashes of color, again, really activating that lobby, making it feel welcoming and inviting and bright. And And then as mentioned earlier, we have another check-in next week, community meeting number 2 at the Civic Center, and then following that, the week after, the final design presentation on the 14th.
Okay, so I mentioned earlier the proposed master project resolution and the first amendment to the master development agreement. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to go through those concepts now. So I'm going to start with the new EPAT Larkin Center. Currently in the master development agreement, it obligates Roca Point Partners, or master developer, to construct a new EPAT Larkin Center in a different location than it exists today, still in the downtown. We had initially proposed 2 alternative sites, still on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. It was going to be a larger center, more modernized. After speaking to the district commissioner, it's our understanding that's not the direction she supports going in, or some of her stakeholders in the community. So we are recommending that what we're saying now is we're going to be taking that out of the development agreement as an obligation as it relates to Roca Point Partners at this time. I did want to make it clear that there is a financial impact to doing this, because if you look at the building on the right of the screen, that's where we were planning to develop the existing site. So again, we were planning to construct a new EPAT Larkin Center, still on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, not in its current position, but relocating that newly constructed building. And of course, we wouldn't demolish the existing building until such time as we were ready to turn the keys over for the new building. Because we're removing that site as a taxable use to be developed, it is a $20 million land sales loss to the project. So we just wanted to make that clear to the City Commission and the CRE Board as you're contemplating this amendment. So again, there would be no new development on the existing site, and that's a loss of about $1.4 million annually in property taxes for the project. So in meeting with the commissioner, the preference is to renovate the existing EPAT Larkin Center. So I know she's going to be working with Dr. Tammy Good, our capital improvement manager. She's already started pulling some numbers together to perform some minor renovations of the existing center. It would be, we're looking at probably under $900,000. We don't want to trigger any major improvements that might be required by the code. But you know, if you have further questions of that, like on this process, like I stated, Dr. Tammy Good is in the audience this evening and would be able to entertain those questions at the end of the presentation. So again, we are removing, Roca Point Partners would not be obligated to renovate. Let's make that clear. Their only obligation initially in the master development agreement initially was to construct a new center. Now that we're renovating, we're taking, they're not obligated to do the renovation. We would be handling that solely as the city, and our capital improvement manager would be overseeing that process. Another element that we are recommending amending the master development agreement to incorporate is the concept of a vocational tech center and a college resource center combination. When we were proposing to construct a new EPAT Larkin Center, the idea was to consolidate those uses into the new center. We would make it larger, of course, a larger footprint to incorporate those uses. Since we're no longer contemplating constructing a new EPAT Larkin Center, what we've discussed with the District 4 Commissioner is to construct a standalone facility. Her request was to locate it next to Annie Adderley Gillis Park, so that's currently what in your backup information as part of this amendment. And Roca Point Partners would be completing the new construction of that facility as part of their obligations under the Master Development Agreement. This is going to result in an increase in the civic facilities budget for the project. So it's an additional $6.4 million that we would be required to fund as the city, and we would be incorporating that into the financing for the project. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. In terms of additional project elements, we are recommending a 30% local business participation in the project. You would have to have a Pompano business tax receipt to participate. The way we're structuring this is an incentive to developers who ultimately would pass this along to their general contractors as an example. And again, that's to provide an incentive for them to use local forces to participate in the project. We are capping that incentive of $2 million. So as an example, if a hotel developer came in, they would be entitled to 1% of the construction value of their project. As more developers come to the table, we would cut that incentive off at $2 million. We would have to incorporate that $2 million as part of our civic obligations as part of this project, and we would be incorporating that in the financing as well. Also in item 2, we understood that preserving culture and heritage of the Northwest community was very important to the District 4 Commissioner. So we are amending the Master Development Agreement so that we, the city, and the CRA and the master developer will be working in coordination with Commissioner Perkins to incorporate all of these elements in item 2 into the project, into the master plan somewhere in the downtown. And that will be an evolving process as we start to develop uses in the downtown redevelopment area. Item 3, workforce housing. We are required to put in 15% workforce housing. At full build out, we're estimating that to be 450 units. We are incorporating a target of 25%. There was a request to make a minimum of 20%. We are not willing to commit to that at this time. We did look at our sources and uses by adding the additional 5% workforce uses in the project, and it was it was a $60 million hit to the project over 30 years. So again, we want to see how the project evolves, and we might be willing to consider that at a future point. But at this point in time, we're committed to the minimum as required by code, which is the 15% workforce housing for the project. Item 4, Roca Point Partners, they have committed to make certain contributions to schools in the Northwest community as well as nonprofits. That's $500,000. They would be utilizing a mechanism to do that apart from the city. So the city wouldn't have any part in this function, but they have committed to provide these community benefits to the community in the form of $500,000. Jobs and Small Business Incubator. Many of you in the community have heard me talk about this at the roundtable discussions. These two elements, hiring of a job placement consultant and also implementing a small business incubator, it's not part of the Master Development Agreement because it really has nothing to do with Roca Point Partners. Basically, the city and CRA would be working in collaboration to make sure that there's maximum outreach relative to the jobs that are going to come about in the downtown, whether it's construction jobs or it's permanent jobs as all of these uses start to come online. So we would be looking to hire this consultant to come on board to ensure that folks in the community are aware of all these opportunities. They can come to the table, they can get educated on those opportunities. If they have a skill set, we'll start a database. If they don't, we would try to find a resource to ensure that they have the skill set they need so that they're ready for this project. It's a long-term project, 10 to 15 years, and we know we have time to get all that in place to ensure that those opportunities are taken advantage of. Relative to Small Business Incubator, again, that's a great concept. The idea is to have a space where businesses currently, maybe you don't have bricks and mortar, you need a space to come in and use computers or a printer, but the idea is to also bring in resources to help support those small businesses to take them to the next level, whether it's developing a marketing plan or a business plan. Ultimately, what we're also recommending is that in the downtown, we would be working closely with the mixed-use developers. The idea is for the CRA to lease space, retail space in a mixed-use project, break that space up into smaller components to make it more affordable, and then sublease those smaller spaces to smaller businesses in the community. We would mandate that they have to go through the incubator, the Small Business Incubator Program, to ensure their success ultimately in the long run. All right, financing for City Hall garage and drainage infrastructure. So we've talked previously about the need for a new City Hall here at the city. Since this City Hall was built in the early 1990s, our population has grown by about 56%, a lot of that due to annexation. So obviously with more residents, it required more employees to serve those residents. We're really busting at the seams in the existing City Hall. If you've spent any time, particularly in the building department, as we've hired new personnel, we end up having a mishmash of people in different places in City Hall. The layout is very inefficient in terms of departments that work closely together are not located on the same floor. This building currently, we have a lot of deferred maintenance and capital. We did an assessment of the building, and we estimate that we will have to put in about $48 million over the next 20 years in things that just have to be done to a building as it ages. Also, it's an older building, so it's not very efficient, right? Constructing a new building will allow us to drop our operating expenses to estimated about $1 million a year less. So another thing that I'm hearing out there is that, city halls, right? That, we're building for the future. Obviously, we're building it larger because we anticipate adding additional personnel, but with technological advances, why are we building this new city hall? We should learn to serve our residents better online. I can tell you, and if you even ask the building department, we've made a lot of advances in technology, right? And people being able to submit building plans, pay for their plans online. I know Mr. Rother, a building official, will tell you people still want to come in City Hall. They have, either they're not technologically savvy, right, to use the system as much as you give them the know-withal to do it. They want to come in, they want to meet face-to-face, they want to lay out their plans and get all their questions answered. Similarly, whether you're paying for a water bill, we've done outreach to try to encourage more people to pay online, to pay at the Treasury Department. There's some people, again, unfortunately, we have the great digital divide, right, where people either don't have access to the technology or they're scared of using technology. I'll tell you right now, my in-laws, they still use cash because they're fearful of putting their credit card and debit card into a system because someone's going to steal their identity. As much as I explain it, and to them, that is just their comfort level. So we still have a large subset of our customers that come into City Hall to pay their water bill or to pay at the Treasury counter. There are a lot of cities around us building new city halls. We have cities around us that have built city halls over the last few years, whether it's your Coral Springs, your Davie, your Sunrise, your West Palm Beach. We know that Fort Lauderdale has had their issues. They're in the process of trying to construct a new city hall as well. So all around the country, people are building city halls. We certainly recognize that at some point in the future, maybe, right, you're going to have a situation where government buildings are not housed by employees, they're remote. I'm not sure if we're going to get there. I feel like people want to see a civic building. They want to see the presence. They want to have that face-to-face engagement. Obviously we're on a 4-day work week. There were some issues with that. We have a need for this building. It will be occupied, and if some miracle in the future, we can always certainly monetize that asset or a portion of it to generate revenues as part of that facility. So we are holding strong. We need a new city hall. It's part of this project. And the other side of the coin, too, is to anchor the downtown. I spoke earlier about all of the examples of downtowns that are anchored by government buildings. The signs are there everywhere to see. We're not making that up. Anybody can look it up if they like. So again, it's a major anchor for this downtown. When Roca Point Partners bid on this project, that was an integral part of them bidding on the project to anchor the downtown. And we've obligated ourselves to construct a new city hall and a new parking garage as part of this project. Just some pictures there. Another thing to point out is that currently City Hall, it doesn't meet the FEMA requirements or the current floodplain code requirements. So it can't withstand a hurricane higher than a Cat 3. Obviously for the city of Fort Lauderdale, they didn't have a hurricane event, but we had some significant flooding there, and they were recommended to replace their City Hall many years ago. They didn't pull the trigger. Well, now they're paying for that because they have to react, right? And one of the downfalls of not being proactive and being reactive is now you're going to end up spending more taxpayer dollars. I'll tell you right now, it's going to cost them $14 million to lease temporary office space over the next few years. And their police headquarters are already in temporary spaces, and they're paying, it's going to cost them $3 million. So this, again, is what happens when you're reactive and you're not proactive. We're trying to get ahead of the game. We've already established that we need it. We have the numbers to back it up, and we're justified in moving forward. And of course, more notably, it's the anchor for this project, and we're committed to do it. So again, as far as the city civic obligations, initially we were committing to the city hall, the parking garage. On the third line, I have new or renovated E.Pat Larkin Center. So I did want to point out, as part of the civic budget, we initially had $10.3 million to construct a new E.Pat Larkin Center. We are leaving the door open in case the commissioner changes her mind and decides over the next few months that she wants to construct a new E.Pat Larkin Center. So we're leaving the full $10.3 million in the equation to finance that cost. However, if we are moving forward with the renovations, once we do those renovations, we would not be issuing $10.3 million in additional debt. We would, it'd probably be $9.3 million less or so. So again, the majority of that funding would come off the table, and we would be issuing less debt relative to that component of the project. We would be incorporating the Vocation Tech and College Resource Center, as I stated earlier. That's at a price tag of about an additional $6.4 million. And we talked about the project incentives to incentivize developers as they come to the table to purchase the pads, or it's Roca Point Partners who will be developing our City Hall and garage. We want to incentivize them to do local participation for our local businesses. So we are pulling about $2 million into the financing to accommodate that as well. So we have total project costs of about $107 million. We are obligated to make a performance payment to Roca as part of their profit share on the deal. And if we were going to do private financing, it was 15%. If the City Commission approves us to do public financing, it drops that performance payment obligation to 12.75%. So that's a little bit of a savings there. Ultimately, we would be looking to finance about $121 million in project costs. At the workshop last week, I did talk a little bit about adding in capitalized interest to help us to delay when we start making lease payments on the City Hall financing and the garage financing. So that would ultimately, in your form documents that you have in your agenda backup, we would be asking you to approve a not to exceed amount of $137 million relative to City Hall, the garage, and the additional project elements. Like I stated earlier, if we don't construct a new Pat Larkin Center, that amount would drop by about $9 million. Finally, our other obligation on the Master Development Agreement, as I stated earlier, is to finance the drainage infrastructure bond for the project. Now, the drainage serves many functions. You know, it's nice to look at. It's a nice amenity. It does add value to the pads that are owned by the CRA in that area on two fronts. One, because anything that's constructed near water, right, tends to have a higher value. Anyone coming to look to develop in the city, it's certainly not the beach, but being near any kind of waterway is going to entice the private sector to come and allow us to charge more for those pads. Also, it does serve a function. It serves as drainage for all the pads that are going down on the right and left of the development. So we're creating that infrastructure, and again, when the private sector comes to the table, it adds more value to our pads because they don't have to worry about vaulting drainage on the ground for every single pad that it goes under development. So again, it's a great formula for success, and it's a win-win for the city and CRA. And that completes my presentation.
Very good. Thank you for that. Any questions from the commission right now? Because I'm going to open it up for some public input here. But any questions from the commission? Commissioner Perkins?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Suzette. You made it very clear about what Commissioner Perkins want, and I understand your setup, what you're doing. First of all, I never suggested placing any buildings on the north side of MLK. That did not come from Beverly Perkins. When I heard about it, I was told that the city wanted to place a standalone building across the street. I think anything in this project that has to do with this project should be inside the project, not across the street. That did not come from me.
Can I respond?
So I don't know where you get that from. So I can tell you're set up in this meeting. Let's throw all this at Commissioner Perkins, and let's invite people from the community to come in and go after Beverly Perkins simply because the city wants the E. Pat Larkin Center down. So I understand your presentation, and I know where you're going with this.
May I respond now?
Yes, you may, yes.
So I guess I have a misunderstanding because when we met as a group, what we had initially proposed is that the standalone facility, because initially we were going to put the uses in the new center. When the new center came off the table, what we discussed is a standalone facility. What we had proposed is to have it in the core, which we refer to the core. The north side of MLK is part of the downtown. But my understanding, even when we proposed a new center next to a new Larkin Center, people felt like it was outside of the core. So I had recommended that this standalone facility be in the core between Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, Atlantic.
Excuse me,
right?
I
The group said.
I have no
I
idea
asked-
what you're talking
I will-
about.
okay,
Listen,
all right.
I'm making it very clear for the record. I have never said put a standalone building across the street from the project. That never came from me. And in those meetings that we have people taking minutes. So I don't think it's fair to put anything across the street. Everything should be inside the project on those 75 acres.
Okay, I'm fine with that, so we can go back to that. That's fine.
All right, thank you.
Okay, very good. Any further questions or from the commission, comments right now? Seeing none? Okay, let's go ahead and open it. I'm sorry, Commissioner Fessig?
Sorry. I just wanted to kind of go back over something really quick. All right, I took a bunch of notes. First, let's just go backwards, it'll be easier. The pictures of the rooftop of our existing city hall, we mentioned it was from the early 1990s. And, you know, I know that I always say we show pretty pictures, but it's funny because we also show pictures of things that we don't want to see, right? And so there were 3 pictures of when discussing City Hall, there's 3 pictures of our City Hall. Well, if that's from the rooftop from the early 1990s, does anybody know what year that was built? Do you?
Those pictures are not from the 1990s, they're today.
Today, right. So that building that rooftop has not been changed since the 1990s?
I'm going to invite Tammy Good to come up, our capital improvement manager.
Tammy Good, CIP manager. Yes, the roof has been replaced since this building was constructed new.
Okay, when was that replaced?
I think we did a new roof less than 10 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
Something like that.
So the rust that is shown on the rooftop, would you expect that would be standard after 10 years or so?
You said the rust?
Yeah, that's what they're showing, the rust of the metal and the rust.
In a coastal climate such as this, it would be anticipated.
Right.
Certainly.
So the reason why I brought this up is simply because we mentioned the building in the 1990s, and I mean, I don't look the same as I did in the 1990s, and so, I mean, I think I have more damage than City Hall has at this point. But so we keep showing this as, you know, we show not pretty pictures of EPAT Larkins, or we show not pretty pictures of different things when we want to show how we should make them better, but then we show AI versions of photos or conceptual drawings that are subject to change. I just want to point that out, that while I appreciate the hard work that has gone into this, I don't really appreciate seeing things, and it's not you, Tammy, sorry. I don't really appreciate seeing things presented to the public in this manner when many times our own maintenance, again, could prevent certain things. So that's all I have to say about that section. I did have another question.
Can I just address that if you don't mind?
It's
Sorry, go ahead.
I'd like to address that. So first of all, I'd just like to lean a little bit to my credibility. So again, my name's Tammy Good. I'm the CIP manager. I've worked at the city of Pompano for 27 years, and I've worked my way up. I started out as a service worker. I have a master's in construction management and a doctorate in business, and I'm a certified general contractor. And I'm very, very intimately familiar with all of these city facilities. That's my job. That's what I do. I build new, I renovate, and I'm very familiar with City Hall. So there's a couple of factors that you have to consider, not just maintenance. When the building was constructed, how well it was constructed, the craftsmanship that went into it. And for this building, I can't speak the same on the EPAT Larkins, and Ms. Sybil tasked me with, I'm completely unbiased up here. I've not been part of the workshop, so I have limited knowledge, just what I follow. Also, I'm a 30-year resident of Pompano, so I have a lot of stake in what goes on here as well. But for City Hall, this building has been plagued since it was constructed new. We've done some sealing of the building envelope. It's had all new windows and doors. It still leaks. Maintenance cannot keep up with the issues with this building. So for us to show pictures of the roof, is that standard? Yeah, but it just leans to show everyone that it's problematic, and more so on this building because of the initial condition of this building and being in a coastal region that we are in. So we've been plagued with this building, and there are other buildings throughout the city that have the same issues. EPAT Larkin's not necessarily one of them. However, it's a much newer building. In terms of building, it's probably a toddler, 18, 19 years old. This is a little bit older building, 10 years older. However, because of the condition of this building, probably from day one when it was constructed new. Similarly, the public safety complex, that building probably should have been demolished 5 years ago. But it's like a old Model T. We just keep maintaining it, keep it going. But this building is definitely, it's beyond its useful life, and it just doesn't make sense to continue to put more good money in after bad on this building.
Thank you. I live in a house that was built in the 60s. I was built in the 70s. And I think I still have a lot more useful life. So I'm a building, and I understand maintenance, and trust me, my doctors will all tell you that I go for checkups and I get my maintenance done. So I understand buildings, I understand maintenance. I thank you for your professionalism, and I know I do appreciate you. I just wanted to point out that in this presentation, and of all of the ones we've seen, this is the same story and the same narrative that I just have to just point out that, we all need a little help every now and then, right? Whether you be a building, and we do live in a coastal environment, we do live in a place that is beat by sun, heat, salt. This is very familiar to all of us. So anyway, the second part of what I was going to go into is related to our anchoring City Hall. So Ms. Sybil, the one question that we keep coming back to, and I understand investing in our downtown area. The question I have is there a reason why we are doing this in this order, where we are, because we stand to make some money as a city and as a CRA from the developer perhaps reaching out to other people and knowing that we might have the City Hall coming. But is there a reason why we're doing it in this order, where we have to approve the City Hall first before we see any revenue from the other pieces?
Well, that's the whole concept of the anchor, right? The anchor meaning that you're going to put the City Hall in, and that serves as the anchor to start to attract the private investment. Now, the revenue comes primarily in the form of the land sales, and we can start making the land sales. You all approve what we're asking you, or authorize what we're asking you to do on May 14th. Roca Point Partners are ready to hit the ground running and selling those pads immediately. So they're going to start that process immediately. And as I talked about before, and by the way, I forgot to mention, that you do have the form documents. We did print it all out for you. It's a lot of paperwork, so we did provide the binders for you with all the form documents. But again, that's the anchor for the project. It's a recipe that a lot of other cities follow. I think right now Margate's doing it, Boca. It's not something unusual that we're recommending. I'm sure that Roca Point Partners can speak as well as to that process and that formula for success, if you'd like them to get up and explain that in more detail.
No, that's fine. Kervin, quick question, just as a reminder, this whole backup, when did we get all this? I don't remember what day the email came through.
Last Thursday.
Last Thursday, okay. I just want to point out for anybody who doesn't understand how thick this is. In addition to the 302-page master development agreement that I have been working my way through in detail, this is a new thing, and all the meetings. So last Thursday, we are now also, again, trying to go through all this, which is a lot in legalese. I just want to point out that this is a lot in a very short period of time, and this all translates to millions of dollars that we are tasked with investing, I'll even give it that, investing in our community, but also holding taxpayers responsible for a lot of this development. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not speaking negatively about it. I'm just saying this is a very fast timeline to absorb this much information, and I do not have a legal background. I have a business background, but I don't have a legal background, and this is a lot. And so the other concern I have is, and this came while we were going through all this, and I started going through this paperwork, is Mr. Berman and Ms. McKenna, there's a lot of legalese in here, and I understand Ms. Sybil's background is obviously not as a lawyer or an attorney. Is there a reason why we're not hearing from you on this?
Can I clarify a few things?
Yeah, like you can hear from me right now, if you let me. Just to answer the question, this is a presentation from the developer. This is the people who are working on the development. Any questions you have, you're not being asked to make any decisions tonight based upon all that information. You need to be given this information at some point. It was provided, and you should have ample opportunity to review all of it, to ask me or anyone in my office to provide you with any legal advice or answer questions you may have as to legalese, as you indicate, long before you have to vote on anything. This is just a presentation. Now, I'm not part of the team making the presentation. I am here to answer questions along with CRA council and along with city council. So, you know, it's a limited opportunity to have your time, your attention, and to present, and it's being done by the people who are more hands-on than I am as far as putting the deals together, but we have our outside counsel here as well to answer questions. And there will be ample time, and we will make whatever time you or any other commissioner need to answer your questions, to make sure that when you make your decision, whatever those decisions are, that they're fully educated and you understand everything before you. That's not tonight. Tonight it's just a presentation and an update.
Well, thank you. And I just wanted to make
Ms.
sure
McKenna,
that,
you want to?
sorry.
Yes, if I can just respond as well. You did not have the benefit because you weren't sitting on the commission back in 2024. We had extensive meetings about the legal ramifications of the documents with the commissioners and with the public, and Mr. Berman and I both made public comments about the legal documents at that time. The documents are done. They've all been, you know, they were approved, executed back in 2024, and we're certainly available to explain anything to you that are in the documents, but the documents aren't going to change because they were done a year ago.
Right, we're talking about these ones, though. We're talking about these. These are amendments.
Your bond counsel will be available to answer any questions about the bond documents. That's not an area that Mr. Berman and I practice in. That's why we have outside counsel to do that. And certainly if you have any questions about any of the forms, and remember, these are forms. You're just approving the forms. If you have questions about the forms, we're happy to get you the answer.
Thank you. I do have one more question about this, though. So it's not just about how I understand things, right? That's part of it. But how can I, in my role, or the general public who has to be able to have the opportunity to give us insight before May 14th, if they don't fully understand this, while I appreciate I can meet you privately, I would just like to see a little bit more in the future, more information provided, less about pretty pictures and more about what we are signing up for so that we can all make an educated decisions together. So that's just my comment for now. I will continue to read and I will continue to go through things, but
Can I respond?
thank you very much.
Ms. McKenna?
Yes, I just want to point out that our agenda backup is on our website, and I believe that the agenda cover memo is very detailed and written in a way that our residents can look at what we're doing, understand it, and certainly be available if they have questions. That's what this public forum is for.
Right, and I appreciate that, but I will also tell you that if I was not in this role, I would not be going through this amount of paperwork on my own. I would definitely not. I would not take time out of my family life. I would not take time out of anything to do that. But I would, so what I'm saying is I would appreciate a slideshow version of this for the general public so that we could help them to understand what this is and they could provide their insight. That's my comment. Thank you.
So,
Go ahead, Ms.
That was the intention of our PowerPoint tonight.
McKenna. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If I could ask you to please refrain from applause in the future, I'd appreciate it so we can keep going with the meeting. Thank you.
Mayor, may I
Yeah.
clarify?
Ms. Sybil?
Thank you. Thank you. So, I mean, we fully understand it's a lot of documents, right? I'm not making us do it. It's just the parameters for when you're doing a public offering to issue bonds for investors to purchase, right? So there are a lot of parameters around that. We do have expertise bond counsel. She's out of the country, so she's not here this evening. She's with Holland and Knight, Denise Gantz. I will say we have provided the documents to you 3 weeks in advance. That was on purpose because we do recognize the volume of the documents. We do have an agenda memo in there. We also have a financing memo relative to the City Hall and garage financing for the certificates of participation, trying to explain that process to you. That's a lease purchase mechanism. And also for the CRE bonds, we also have a CRE finance memo. And we reference each exhibit and we explain what they are. So again, this was laying the foundation to provide you with the documents 3 weeks in advance. We fully understand you may have questions. That's why we're here. That's why we have expertise legal bond counsel. You know, there are a lot of documents here. There are a lot of tax issues here related to these documents. We have the expertise at the table. I fully understand that there's always a want to understand every single detail. Unfortunately, that's why we have experts come to the table. We want to make sure that the city and its residents are protected, but we also have to make sure that the investors, when they come to purchase the bonds, whether it's the CRE bonds or a share in these certificates of participation to finance City Hall, that they're protected as well. And our residents can purchase the bonds as well, right? So we are incurring interest, and again, the project is self-sustaining. So when we say we don't want to burden our taxpayers, right, we're sitting conservatively on $130 million in land sales for all of the parcels that the CRA and the city owns today, right? We laid out a foundation plan for how we're going to pay for this. We're structuring in a way that the payments related to City Hall and the garage won't come online until fiscal year 2029 if we issue that debt next year. So we are making a very conservative plan. It's a formula that's tried to success in other development projects. The Greenville project as well followed a very similar model. We know we have a strong finance plan for this project. And again, we committed to these obligations in June 20th, 2024 relative to these obligations. And we're simply executing. Roca Point Partners have been executing their obligations since the minute the ink dried last June, and we're trying to meet them and execute our obligations as well as a city and CRA.
Thank you.
Very good.
I have nothing against Roca Point, and I have nothing against the process, and I have nothing against the legalese. I was merely asking for what's presented to the public to be provided in a way that the public can understand all of the difficulties and all of the hard work that you have put into this. In layman's terms, right? They need to understand it, because as itemized as it may be on a city meeting agenda, the reality is that most people are not going to look at it, and most people don't need to know what it is on every line. I don't, you know, I'm happy to do that on their behalf, but when we're presenting things as a presentation to the general public, we need to make sure that people understand what we're asking of them, and we need to make sure that we understand what we're asking of us as well. So that was the mentality. It has nothing to do with, there's no harm, no foul. I'm just asking that in the future we choose to do things a little slightly differently. Thank you.
Very good. Further commissions, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, if we're talking about City Hall being this catalytic element that is the anchor for the project, I appreciate the response that you gave, Ms. Sybil. I think it was probably in reaction to some of the questions that came up at the workshop. But City Hall is closed in the evenings. It's closed 3 days a week because we have a 4-day work week. And when you drive by our City Hall, it's a ghost town for days at a time. It is the exact opposite of what I view as a bustling hub. So the people have concerns about taking on the risk and the financial obligations. And I've spent a lot of time in your finance model. I think what people need to understand here is you are going to be paying for this, and the way the plan to do it is selling the land. That's how you're going to pay for this. And there's a spreadsheet backup as to how and when we're going to sell these parcels. But that is how, in the near term, before the tax base increases, you are going to pay for it. So if those land sales do not materialize for any number of reasons, or are less than expected, or maybe we need to incentivize developers to come develop these pads into what we want, so we don't actually get what we think as profit, then the risk falls on the taxpayers of Pompano Beach, not on the developer, not on anyone else. So I have two questions with this. First, when did we first see the concept, the drawings of the drainage ditches and City Hall? How long ago was that plan conceived? Because I know I've been seeing it since I've been here.
Yeah.
Are you saying through Roca Point?
No, I'm saying through the CRA, through the CRA consultants.
I'll let New and Trans CRA Director answer.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Commission and CRA Board. New and Trans CRA Director. That concept came when we rebranded it. It used to be a commerce center, as some of you may recall, but we called it the Innovation District. That was when you first saw the concept of a linear waterway system right around 2016.
Right. So about 10 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So we have been seeing these pictures a long time, kind of like we saw the pictures of Atlantic and Dixie for a long time. And that project was stuffed down the throat of residents who didn't want it because that was the plan, right? There's a plan, and that was the plan. And this is also the plan, and you're going to get it because this is the plan. So I have concerns that we are taking these outdated ideas that don't fit with our city anymore, the growth of our city. The South Florida, we all know, was a winner of COVID. We have an influx of people here. We have more demand than we can satisfy for housing. We have so many issues here, and we are taking this outdated plan, just like we did at Atlantic and Dixie, and executing it. So a city hall does not seem like the bustling hub anchor that we should have. And while I expect our city hall yes, it needs investment, but we probably haven't been investing in it. I said this at the workshop, and I'm going to say it again. If we're doing a good job as a local city government, in 10 years, you should not have to come to City Hall. That is the goal. Even if you want to, that's great, and there will still be some foot traffic. There always will be. But if we are driving a technology-focused, lean, efficient operation, and keep in mind there's going to be a turnover of the people who live here too. It will be younger millennials and people who are more savvy with technology over the next 20 years. They don't want to come to a city hall. So this building better be flexible. We better be ready to turn it into something else. And that is a sad state to be in, that this is our anchor, and we're going to tie the people of Pompano to that much debt for something that we are already thinking about repurposing. So that's my first question about how long this plan has been in the works, and maybe it's time to rethink what a modern hub and downtown would look like that suit.
Vice Mayor, 1 second. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you again. Please refrain from applause. Let's get on with the meeting. Thank you.
And just like other people have said, there's nothing personal about any of this, but I think it's important that people understand the relationships between everyone here. So I think it's important people understand what Roca Point Partners is doing for us, because we hear master developer, master developer. So there was part of the presentation when I think Patrick said we are finalizing things, we have work to do, we've got, some infrastructure that needs to be addressed, some remediation. How much, and Patrick said that, so Roca Point's saying that, how much money is Roca Point putting in to do any of that work?
So before we answer that, can I clarify the outdated response?
I've moved on right now, so no.
Okay, so
we can go back to that, but my question now is, when I hear Roca Point saying we are finalizing this, we're working through this, we have remediation to do, we have infrastructure, how much of that which is dollars, is Roca Point putting into this project? Suzette, Suzette, you know the answer to that.
Well, and you know the answer as well.
I do, but I want the people to know the answer.
Well, it's our property, it's our obligation, so we're paying for that.
Right. So we are paying for everything, and I just think people should understand that the people of Pompano are paying for absolutely everything in this project. Wow. Everything.
Can I clarify?
So it is a master developer agreement, but it's essentially like we've hired another master consultant to tell us how to do this. And we certainly need them to do that if we're going to execute. There's no doubt that we need that. But I think there's a lot of misconceptions that this partner of ours is somehow investing alongside with us right now on these early stage risky parts of the project, and that is not true. So I have more. I have a couple, actually, I have a question, a legal question too, if I'm, so in this agreement that we entered, there's a provision that we talked about at the workshop about being deadlocked. And I assume that means if we're, does that mean if we are 3-3 here, is that what a deadlock is per the agreement?
The deadlock is where there's a dispute about any decision that has to be made. So that if the developer presents us with a set of terms for financing, and we say we don't like those terms, and we can't resolve that, that's a deadlock.
Is a 3-3 up here considered a deadlock?
If, to the extent that it doesn't.
Wait, Rex, please don't shake your head. It's a question, and it's a legitimate one.
I'm sorry, Vice Mayor. Was I interrupting you?
No, but you're sitting here shaking your head like it's like we can't ask these questions, and I think they're important.
Oh, no. I certainly meant none of that. No, absolutely. Vice Mayor, you can ask anything you'd like. And
I know I can.
And Vice Mayor, I can also shake my head anytime I like, as other people do up here. Thank you very much, Vice. I appreciate it. And I will continue.
You can continue to shake your head no the entire time I speak.
No, I don't. Only when things. Thank you, Vice. Go ahead.
If I may, if a 3-3 decision by this body then results in a failure to move forward with some decision that we have to make relative to the developer, that's a deadlock.
Okay, so my question is, the certificates of participation, how we're issuing this is through, what is it, the Pompano Beach Finance Corporation or that entity?
Facilitating, right?
Right, that's facilitating it. So does this master developer agreement with that deadlock provision supersede the bylaws or our charter? So if our charter says it requires a majority for something to happen, or if the bylaws of the Pompano Beach Financing Corp say that it requires a majority, and we don't have a majority, does that provision between us and a private developer supersede our bylaws and our charter?
I'm not sure if you're talking about the deadlock. It would depend on what the particular question was, but I think I can make it a little bit easier for you, Commissioner. If you decide you don't want to take the avenue of the public financing, you've already approved the private financing, so we would just go back to that model.
For the infrastructure bonds?
For the infrastructure bonds, you have already approved the issuance of bonds. You're just approving the form documents.
So that you are telling us, again, as this body, that if we don't approve the financing, it doesn't matter. It's happening anyway.
No, it's happening in a different form.
Right, but it's happening. I understand the difference.
Yes, I think it might be helpful.
How did you and anyone else let this body enter an agreement like that, that is so lopsided on the commitments of the city and the people relative to the other parties?
Commissioner, with all due respect, that's your interpretation of the document. I think what you would learn is that it's actually a well-designed business model that gives you options and flexibility, and it was carefully explained to everybody how it would work. Because at the end of the day, what this commission and CRA said is, we want to build a new downtown. And we put out a procurement for that. We selected a master partner for that, and then we put together a legal document that would let that happen. And while I appreciate your interpretation, I respectfully disagree that that's what we did. What we did was we created a legal vehicle by which the project could happen and gave you the flexibility to say, as Greenville did, we're going to have ROCA do the financing for this. And that's a business model that you can choose. What we did was we built into the agreement If you don't want to use that model, that's okay. You can do self-financing. So I appreciate that your perspective is different than our legal perspective, but we presented you with a document that gave you flexibility.
Okay, I have two more quick questions. I asked in an email about whether we, as the people of Pompano, have an owner's rep in this situation. And the response came back that Roca Point is providing services similar to an owner's rep. And I was really concerned by that because an owner's rep is an independent entity that represents the people and the city. And to hear that Roca, the other party to the agreement, is not conflicted, that they would be possibly representing us also, was concerning to me. So we're gonna have to talk more about whether we need an owner's rep and what that is, but the idea that the other party to the agreement is the owner's rep and isn't conflicted was troubling. And then one other thing, why do we need to add to the MDA the 15% affordable housing if it's already required by law? It sounds like it's like they're giving something here, we're gonna do 15%, but that's actually what they're required to do anyway.
We're just
Wait, Ms. Sybil, wait. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you again, please refrain from applause. Let us get on with the meeting. Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Sybil.
Just memorializing what's in the city code.
Okay.
Just wanted to put that language in the master development agreement.
Okay. And I appreciate it's in there, but I don't like when I keep hearing, it's gonna be 15%. Well, they're required to do 15%. So maybe it should say 25 in the agreement, and then I understand why it needs to be memorialized, because someone's actually giving something. But there seems to be a give that only goes one way, kind of like the $2 million that we are now on the hook for the local business participation.
So let me answer the 15%. You're right, it's required, but there is also a buyout option.
Sure.
So they could buy out of that requirement, provide 100% market.
Okay.
Their commitment is to provide at least the minimum of workforce units, shooting for 25%.
Okay. To actually build instead of buy out.
Actually build them.
So that is why that's in the agreement.
That is in there for them to build it. At minimum, shooting for 25%, 30% if anything.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good.
This one.
I've got Commissioner Perkins. I heard Commissioner Perkins. Then I'll.
Yes, I think what really concerned me about the contract, we voted on the contract last November. And I think it was myself, did you? Okay. It was two of us that voted against the contract. So it was a 4-2, so it passed. And I said to the developer, the reason I didn't vote for his contract was because the Northwest had identified items that we wanted to be inserted into his contract, and that was not done. Later, I began to read the contract, and I couldn't believe some of the language. And that's why I asked Ms. McKinney who wrote the contract, because I've never seen a contract written like this. My background is not law, my background is communications. The way the contract was written, no one was in mind with this contract but the developer. So we have to pay in the contract the developer $2 million a year. Now, if this project fails, or if it goes away, we're still obligated to pay the master developer $2 million for 10 years.
Want me to clarify that for you?
$2 million.
So over 36 months, and it's to deliver our civic facilities.
Pardon me?
The infrastructure.
Say that again?
It's only over 36 months from the time they start designing the civic facilities, City Hall and the garage, as well as the infrastructure. So it's only paid over the time frame to design and construct those assets on behalf of the city and CRE, not over 10 years.
Okay, so if this project fails,
Ladies,
we have to continue to pay the master developer.
You would have to define fail for me.
Pardon me?
He does not like me, I'm sorry. He falls off every time.
if I could just interrupt, if I could ask people to please refrain from the conversations. If you want to talk, please go out in the lobby area. Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
it depends on what we're talking about. If somebody walks up to this podium and says something that you like, you don't mind people applauding. But for some reason, they're not saying something you like, so you want to stop them
I
from
don't know,
applauding.
Commissioner, I don't know what
Listen,
they're
we
saying.
all pay attention up here. You know, we know when you do things and when you don't.
Very good,
So
Commissioner.
when you like something, you allow the, and when you don't, you're like, please restrain from.
Okay, very
No,
good, Commissioner.
I'm just, okay, but anyway, getting back to you, Suzette, if this project fails, based on the contract, the way the contract is written, we have to continue to pay the master developer.
Well, can you define fail? Give an example. What are you saying fail? How?
It doesn't happen if it fails, if it doesn't move forward.
I'll have Ms. McKinney answer that question. I mean, I'm only telling you what we're obligated to pay them to do as our obligation under the agreement for 36
So,
months.
Ms. McKinney, if the project fails, are we obligated to pay the master developer based on the contract?
I'm not sure, I think I share Ms. Sybil's question. What do you mean by if the project fails? You mean if we don't have any land sales, nobody buys any of the pads, or do you mean the commission decides to breach the agreement?
All of the above.
I'm sorry. Then, yeah, if the sales of the pads do not occur, then the economic piece of the agreement doesn't occur the way it's intended. That's what happens if the pad sales. If the commission were to decide it wanted to breach the agreement, we would expose ourselves to claims by the developer. I'm not going to publicly litigate and talk about what claims they would have, but it would expose the city to a substantial amount of risk.
And that's because of the way the contract was written, is that correct?
No, that's standard in contracts. When you have binding obligations, if you don't complete your obligations and you cause a breach, the other party is damaged, and they can seek damages.
Okay, so for instance, let me use an example. If on May 14th, if we decide to vote for this project, and the project, 5 people vote against the project and 1 person vote for the project, and the project fails, do we have to continue to pay, or will we pay the master developer?
Commissioner, you already voted, this body voted for the project back in June of '24. You're not going to be voting for the project on May 14.
Listen. What I'm saying to you is, on May 14th, if this project is voted down, do we have to continue to pay the master developer, yes or no?
Okay. I'm not sure what you're talking about voting down, but let's
Ask me what you want to know, and I can better explain it.
Let me try and see if I can answer your question. If
How
on
can you
May
answer it if you don't
14th
understand it? Just ask me what you don't understand.
Okay, I'm gonna answer what I think is the question. The idea would be that we say we want you to approve the form bond documents and the form self-financing documents.
Okay.
And you vote not to do that. Here's what will happen under the agreement. The project will continue to the extent that that funding does not start right after May 14. There is a provision in the agreement that tolls all of the time. And so you could theoretically tie up your land for the next 10 years.
Who could tie up the land for 10 years?
That's what the agreement provides.
The agreement says
So
who
it
can
would
tie
not-
up the land.
Commissioner, the contract provides that we have a funding obligation. We're obligated to fund the project.
Yes,
If you don't fund the project, then it tolls the period for the developer to perform. It doesn't terminate the agreement. And we would be in a position.
You just answered my question when you said does not terminate the agreement.
That's correct, it does not.
That means we have to pay the master developer.
No, we wouldn't be paying during that time. We would be waiting for you to decide whether or not you wanted to reconsider your decision not to do the funding obligations. And we would tie the property up because it's pursuant to this agreement. And then presumably after the 10-year tolling period, the developer would have the opportunity to say, I lost all my profits. This was an arbitrary decision because
not what I'm asking.
we have the ability to fund. And the only way we are able to not fall into that category is if for some reason we didn't have the ability to fund, but we do. And so it has, if you decide not to approve the funding on May 14, we would presumably go back to the build-to-suit model for the private financing, and the project would go forward.
Okay, you still didn't answer my question, but let me just say this, Ms. McKinney. I was very disappointed with you and Attorney Berman, the way the contract was put together, because it was put together with the master developer in mind, not the community and not the city, in my opinion. The whole contract is a money grab. People are waiting in line to make money on this project, and it's the entire project is just, I've never seen anything put together like this in our city, and I think what doesn't help the matter is that I've never heard the master developer say anything as far as legally we can't say minorities, legally we can't say African Americans, we can't say any of that. But if he wants to do some of that or work with those people, he can. And he's not said any of that. So my last question is for Nguyen. What are the responsibilities for this downtown project of RMA? What is their responsibility for the downtown project?
RMA is a consultant for the city and the CRA.
No, what are their duties as a consultant?
Responsibilities, they're part of the real estate negotiations and part of the team.
Real estate negotiators?
And development.
And development.
In their scope of services, that's part of it, yes.
Okay, so what is it the master developer is going to be doing?
They're going to pull off the actual development as a developer.
So they're doing the same thing?
No, the RMA is more of a real estate advisory consultant for us. They're not the developer.
So RMA take care of the real estate portion of it, and the master developer will master the development part of it.
They're more of the owner's rep, honestly.
Mayor?
I'm done for now, Mayor.
Mayor,
Good.
Done
I've
for
got
now.
Commissioner Fessick.
Mayor, can I respond just to that?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Berman, sure.
Thank you. I just want to make it clear, first of all, we wrote this contract with expert outside counsel. This is a P3 project. These come few and far between. And based on the millions of dollars and the amount and the, what was at risk and the functions of this contract, we spared no expense in bringing in the best expert outside contract attorneys to work on this contract with us and advise us and work out, and these are terms in what you're reading of how these P3 projects are done here and throughout the country. We hired the best legal talent that we could, and they have great expertise in this type of matter. So what you're reading, and when you say I've never seen this before, it's because we haven't done this before. And it was important enough that in-house counsel and in-house CRA counsel were not going to take this burden on without oversight from experts in the field to make sure that the city was properly represented, and that's the contract. I understand you don't agree, but that's the contract that you have before you. The contract you have before you that was approved, the development agreement, was well vetted by outside counsel, back and forth negotiations for months with us and with outside counsel before it was presented for your approval. I just wanted to make that clear.
Mr. Berman, who do you work for? Who do you work for?
And
You work for the city commission.
that's
Do you
correct.
have the city commission in mind when you put together this contract?
Of course, we had the city commission and the city in mind when we put the contract together.
See, let me
It's a
just say
development
this, and I know this is about, one thing I do know for sure is that change will always happen in Pompano and around the world. I get that. But for some of us that are born and raised in Pompano and from that area, this is sentimental to us. Because a lot of us, like I've stated before, we know how this land was taken. I know when I got elected, I called Mr. Richard Macon, who owns, at the time, Freeman Funeral Home. And I said to him, do you know that there's a running tab on your building every day? And if you don't do something about it, they're gonna take it? He had no idea. And it was so high, he couldn't do anything with it, so he lost it. Now the entire building is gone. It was a part of our history. It probably meant nothing to you, but it was still a part of our history. So in that land, that whole 75 acres, from your perspective and many others in the city, you're looking at the money and how this can be a great project, but the people who actually live there will not benefit from it. Because all of the apartment units that will be built there are market rate, and people in my community and myself, we can't afford that. So this entire, and then once you, on the north side of MLK, the conditions will still be the same in the community. We will still have the shooting and the drugs and all of that. So this project is a standalone island that takes care of itself and does nothing to help anybody outside of it. We can't even guarantee minority businesses, black developers. We can't do any of that. So nothing about this project is for us. So, and I know, Mayor, you're very uncomfortable when I say to you, I remember how a lot of those homes and businesses were taken. And it makes you feel very uncomfortable, but sometimes the truth does hurt. And I remember a lot of those businesses, how they were taken in the 80s and 90s. And now here we are today in 2025 talking about that same property where we're not included in the project. Because everybody is standing around waiting to make money from this project. And then Miss Suzette stands over there, who looks like me, the third highest paid person in this city, has never, ever, since she's been in that position, tried to help anyone of color in the city.
Commissioner.
I know that feels uncomfortable too, but it's the truth.
Let's
It is.
Let's try and stay above that. Getting personal to staff. That's
No,
uncalled
it's
for.
facts.
I'm sorry.
It's factual.
I'm sorry, Commissioner. It's uncalled for. Should not happen. Please,
Well,
thank you.
listen, I know it's uncomfortable.
Say whatever
is
you
the
want about
truth.
me. That's fine.
I do, I say that too.
I know.
I do.
That's okay.
Yes, but I just, this project is just, I've been trying to work and come around and deal with this project, because when you first started on this project of putting it all together, and I know someone walked up and said 2016 was the first time you saw this water or whatever, it was long before that, believe me, it was. When you hear people say a seat at the table, it's just respect to work more with the community, Now, the group we had before, I think it was Related Group, everything in their model, everything they talked about was the community. Everything they talked about was the community. So they of course, that got my attention because I'm interested in whoever want to work, with the people. But Suzette, for you to stand there and just keep calling my name and Commissioner Perkins, I don't make decisions on my own. I am the voice of the people. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't agree. For you to continuously mention my name and Commissioner Perkins so that you could have people walk up to the podium and start belittling and talking about Commissioner Perkins. You show the top of the City Hall building, but you're not showing the top of the E. Pat Larkins building. I know there's a big grab for the E. Pat Larkins Center. Some people in my district say, tear it down. The majority of them that sent me emails and phone calls said, let's leave it up, it's sentimental. And his wife came and stated the same thing. So either way you go, some people are gonna be happy and some people are not gonna be happy. Right now, the city is not happy because they want the E. Pat Larkins building down like they took the other businesses. So I'm going with the majority of the residents based on their emails and phone calls. That's that. And I think I'm done for now, Mayor.
Very good. Commissioner Fessick.
Thank you. Well, that's a lot. I asked in a previous meeting, last meeting we had with the designers, and it wasn't televised. So I asked specific questions about the referee and why that was chosen, why the referee position was chosen over a mediator or an arbitrator. And I did receive an answer back. I'll let you say it again if you'd like. But I had a secondary question to that after hearing that and thinking it through, and I had to sit on it for a little bit because from both of you it said that the referee would act like binding arbitration and the decision of the referee would be binding and final. It's just more efficient. Those were sort of just the common quick notes. And it was done so that we could. The question I have is, how is the referee selected? I don't know who the answer.
Legal question?
Well, I don't know how is the referee selected?
Well, is it in the
Not sure.
contract?
There's a provision in the agreement that provides that the developer and the city contract administrator will confer to determine who they think should be the referee. They have to mutually agree. It can't be unilateral by either side. And my understanding is Ms. Sybil as the city contract administrator and Mr. Mays as the representative from Roca Point looked at different folks and looked at the qualifications of Mr. Wire and selected Mr. Wire.
Okay. So, secondary question, I guess, to that then. If Ms. Sybil is the contract administrator, and this referee, according to what I've read, and you can correct me again if I'm wrong, this referee's decision is binding and final. So if we were to default, well, actually, let me go back for it. Why did that decision to have a referee or to appoint a referee, why did that not come to the CRA board or the city commission?
It did.
It came to the CRA and the city commission.
When?
She couldn't say it's a part of the agreement.
Contract.
It's part of the agreement.
Contract was
When the
approved.
agreement was approved.
Right, okay, so the agreement,
And you delegated the authority for the selection of who would serve as the referee to the city contract administrator.
okay, that makes sense. Now, in the agreement, it was said that the referee would be chosen by January 31st each calendar year. So my question is, if we couldn't be part of the decision, why is it that we were not informed by January 31st as the sitting CRA board or city commission who was chosen?
There's so much going on right now with this project, as you're all aware. It wasn't intentional. Obviously, when you asked about it, I informed you. But there's a lot going on with the project right now. I'll just leave it at that, as you're aware. A lot of meetings, a lot of logistics, and so forth. So it was not intentional not to share that with the commission.
There's a lot of things right now that I think are not intentional. But one of them is, I believe Vice Mayor Fournier mentioned it in our last meeting, that this part-time position seems to be very full-time lately. And I would have to agree, and my husband will 100% agree with me, that he did not sign up for this. He wanted me to represent the district that I love and care about, and the people that I love and care about, and the community that I love and care about. And to do that, we have spent well over $50,000 on just a downtown mailer that went out. Over $50,000. Plus, then there's the marketing, then there's the social media content, then there's the sponsored ads, then there's all the fancy everythings. Then there's the extra consultants we've paid for. I don't even know how much money we've spent on this. But my question is, why are we wasting everybody's time if the decision's already made for us because we have a person in place, including mine?
Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Berman.
throughout this process, whether it was the public or the commission, the demand was made that the commission and the public continually be apprised of the progress of this project so they can see what was going on and comment on it, and so it doesn't just appear and they have no idea what's going to be there. This is just part of that process. Nothing decided tonight. This is what's going on. This is the progress that's been made. This is what's happening, so everyone is kept informed. That's all this is tonight.
I understand that. However, I understand that it's an agenda item. I also understand that I listened to one of our staff members come up before the meeting and ask if we actually had to let people speak. And then I actually also understood that through all of these presentations, it's been, well, if the city commission decides or if the board decides. The reality is that we don't really actually have a choice. We have a choice between a rock and a hard place here. We have a choice between approving the project, which is, if we approve it, we go forward with the debt. If we disapprove it, then we're in a deadlock decision, which our referee will then make the decision for us. And guess what? Our referee is likely going to side with the developer and the city and the CRA, because that same person is also involved in the same vein. So I hate to bring up Judge Judy, but I kind of feel like don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining, because it's literally just the same thing. And I have spent a lot of my hours and a lot of time to figure that basic thing out that honestly, I would have so appreciated if you guys all just started from the beginning and just said, hey, listen, we're just going to show you a bunch of presentations, just nod, smile, and say yes. Because that would have been so much easier. Thank you, I'm done.
Very good. I think I've got Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Well, I think there's kind of a history of nodding, smiling, and saying yes, and that's how we got in this situation in the first place with this contract, because I was, when Ms. McKenna says you approve this, I sit here and cringe, because I did vote no to it because I was extremely uncomfortable with how lopsided it was and how the obligations it put on the taxpayers in the city and no other entities. I want to circle back to something that Commissioner Perkins said, because I think it's an important point and there was something missed. Commissioner Perkins said everyone is making money, and I look around the room even and you're like, everyone's making money now. It is like getting a candy bar on Halloween. But one entity, you asked about RMA and the answer was real estate consulting, but you didn't mention CBRE. So CBRE has two contracts, one with the city, one with the CRA, that add up to almost $300,000. And they also already made over $1 million for real estate consulting fees. And when we close the financing for the construction of City Hall, they stand to make another $1.4 million on real estate consulting. So what is the difference between what CBRE is doing and what RMA is doing?
So CBRE, they have been with us from the beginning. They were part of the solicitation process. They were integral in bringing Roca Point Partners to the table based on their past relationships and convincing them to come to Pompano Beach and be a part of that project. And during that time frame, they've been instrumental when we were considering purchasing properties within the CRA, the redevelopment area, in terms of what to offer, what we considered to be a reasonable deal, how we assembled the parcels. So again, they are real estate experts. I think we all know that Redevelopment Management Associates are our redevelopment expert consultants. They've been part of this project from the beginning. They've been at the table for decades. They're integral in negotiating the contract as well and protecting our interests, not from a legal standpoint, but from a business standpoint in terms of negotiating the deal. I did want to clarify, because I think there's really a big misconception out there about the value of the master developer. And poor Phil's sitting over there, look at his face, and his value to this project. So they came to the table. We hired them as a master developer. So their job is to curate this entire project. Now, we asked them to also oversee the design and construction of the civic obligations of the project, City Hall, the garage, and the parking garage, and the infrastructure, right? So they're gonna oversee the construction of that. That's not really why they're here. We asked them to do it because we wanted a curated project where all the pieces fit together. Their job as well is, they mentioned all the work that they've been working on with Keaton Associates, all the work that still has to be done in that area to make those pads ready for resale. So in essence, they're enhancing the value of the parcels as they exist today. Further, we can all recognize that we don't move very fast as government, right? We all recognize that. So without a master developer, the city would have to go out and put out 20 different solicitations to bring 20 different developers at the table to construct hotel, multifamily, retail, office. They're at the top of that umbrella. Now, they have the right to develop as well, and they probably very well will do some commercial and retail. But their job is to bring and negotiate these pad sales on our behalf. We have to validate that with our experts at the table to make sure it's a good deal for us in terms of brokers' opinions, et cetera. But again, their job are to bring those developers to the table and speed up that timeline.
Right. Thank you for clarifying.
To make clear for the record their role in the project.
But in exchange for that, they are being paid for the next 36 months. There's another performance fee, and they stand to profit handsomely from the land sales if it works out, because they are our partner in it, and they will profit from the land sales. Yeah. So I don't think we need to clarify that anymore.
I'd like to.
I have a question though, and I know this. I don't want to make it personal about Ms. Sybil, but to Mr. Harrison, I've had this nagging concern given how much time Ms. Sybil spends on this project, and I know that you're invested in it, and I see and feel your passion in it, and you believe in it. So I know our questions frustrate you at times, but is the city or the CRA paying Ms. Sybil's salary at this point? Who funds that? Because it feels like very much like one of the other shared employees we have between the city and the CRA. We have other employees who are shared between the two of them, and she feels like one of those at this point.
She's being paid by the city.
Still the city.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
and I think that's one of the questions I struggle with having the city manager act in the dual roles as the executive director of the CRA board, because if I were a city manager and I had an assistant city manager and all of a sudden that person was spending all their time on something else, I'd say, hey, you need to pay me for that. I need, you need to pay for the time that you're using. So it's just something I've wanted to ask, that's been nagging at me. But anyway, the point is there are layers and layers of people being paid in this deal. There is the master consultant or master developer. There are RMA, who's been around for years. There's CBRE, who's getting millions of dollars. And then all the consultants here also have hired their own consultants. So it does not feel like this is the percolating up from the community. It feels like it's being pushed down at this point, and this is what's happening. And the contract is very lopsided. I think maybe some people are just realizing that, but it is designed for certainty. So anyway, thank you. Mayor.
I've got Commissioner Smith. I'm sorry. Who said something down here?
Me,
I'm sorry.
right here beside you.
Okay, I got Commissioner Smith first, and get back to Commissioner Perkins, and then we'll have Commissioner Fessig. Go ahead, Commissioner
Ever
Smith.
since I first heard about this project, I think it's a fantastic opportunity for District 4. And I hear you talk about the north side of MLK and the south side of MLK. What I envision will happen is as as it's developed in the dash line around the downtown area, and developers come and invest, developers are gonna come to the north side of MLK, they're gonna go west of 95, they're gonna go east of Dixie Highway. They're gonna wanna be a part of this. And developers are gonna come in and offer affordable housing units in District 4.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, I'm going to ask you, when somebody's speaking, let them speak. Thank you.
And they're gonna come and they're going to offer our city opportunities for developing affordable housing because we so desperately need it. I agree with you. But they're gonna invest in us because they're gonna see that everybody else is investing in the downtown, just like what happened at the beach. So I think we need to think about the opportunity of having our downtown on Martin Luther King Boulevard. I think that is a prestigious address. I think it's a great opportunity for District 4 and all of Pompano Beach. And I think you know, I'm always thinking we need to just all get along. I think there's some great opportunities that we've got some blinders on, and we need to open up and see what can actually happen as we go forward.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Perkins?
When you compare the beach, the Northwest, that's just like, it's not even apples and oranges, it's like apples and a steak. It's, you know, I've been trying to grasp this project. I just wish I could have been to the table at the beginning, and I was not. And once they put everything together, it's like, okay, Commissioner, here you go. The Northwest is very concerned about whether or not we should demolish the E.Pat Larkins building. And for me, it's much bigger than that. Where the community was concerned about the building, I had to look at the entire project. What's happening over here? What's going on over here? What's, you know, this whole thing. From the very beginning, this project was not done correctly. And that's why you're hearing all of this rumbling and everything that's going on here on the dais. Now, Commissioner, I know you're new on the dais, but some of us have a job to do, and that is listen to the residents. We're not gonna please everybody, but we have to listen to the residents. It sounds good to you, and you said people are gonna come in for affordable housing. That is the biggest concern in my district because with gentrification, we're pushing people out with the high prices of the apartments. Yes, we do need more affordable housing, but the affordable housing stops right there, development services. They won't let them in. That's what we need, affordable housing. There's gonna be no affordable housing in this project. Okay, and then when they'll, what, you give it about so many percentages of low income, we still can't afford that. And then Miriam, in her department, she's gotta make sure she accommodate the people. That's what she's been doing. That is the biggest concern, and I've been saying this for a while, for the last 2 years, the biggest complaint I get in my district is affordable housing. And I have all of these developments in District 4, which we can't stop anyone from coming in to buy land, but I have all these developments in District 4 that a lot of us can't afford to live in. And a lot of them are in the future to come. So yes, we do need affordable housing. But this project is just, I have been trying to deal with this, and it's been very challenging. Because my thing is, what can the Northwest get out of this deal? So I heard the city manager say, well, when you sell a pad, some of that money is gonna go into CRA. So that money's for you all, but we don't control it. So it doesn't help us. So I think everybody gets CRA money for 30 years. And we had it for 30 years, and we spent approximately $40 million, and we have nothing to show for it in the Northwest. It went somewhere. I don't know where it went, but we had no control over it. So if I could just find a little bit of money out of this project, something, millions for the Northwest to put in a pot for us, then maybe I could lean a little bit and say, okay, well, let's, and that's what I've been trying to do. Because nobody's thinking about the community. Nobody's actually thinking about the people that live around this project. Nobody. No one. So yes, this has been a challenge. I'm not saying yay or nay, but I'm hoping we can still work something out where everybody's happy. Right now, the community is not, and I'm not. But I don't feel like it's too late. So, Mayor, why you got that smirk on your face?
Wait, we can't, shoot.
You just have this smirk.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Smirk on your face.
Oh, I was just trying to get them to stop clapping, because you were talking.
All right, I'm done for now.
Very good. Commissioner Fasick.
Thank you. Okay, so, we've had a lot go on with, I want to just go ahead and point out that Roca Point is an exceptional developer.
Yeah.
So I don't want any of our conversations up here to take away from the fact that they are well-known and they are exceptional in what they do. I can tell you from personal experience, my parents lived in Greenville, South Carolina for a number of years, and I did watch the transformation begin there, and it is still actually a beautiful place to be. So I am not, despite me having concerns about the contracts or how things are outlaid, I am not against a revitalization project. I think everything, like I mentioned, I didn't look the same as I did in the 1990s, right? I feel like anybody over 30 understands the concept of, you know what, we need to work out a little bit more, or we need to, the maintenance goes up, right? Over 40, the maintenance goes up. So I understand that, and we have an area of our town that we need to spend some time and money and invest in the future of that area. I fully agree, and so I want to make sure that very clearly I separate these things, even though we're talking about the agreement. With that said, and Commissioner Smith, affordable housing at the beach doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, and we really need it. There's been a lot of friends. I just actually got off the phone on my way here with a girlfriend of mine who desperately wishes she could still afford to live in a small apartment, even a studio, next to the Intracoastal, but she cannot anymore. And that seems to be a common thread. So affordable housing also, as Mr. Tran pointed out, developers can buy that out. They can buy out the ability to participate in that. So then it becomes market rate, and then we're back in the same situation we're in right now. All right, I have a couple different things. So, Mayor Hardin, when we're talking about the new downtown area, and this is a question for you because I know that you took over my predecessor's role at the MPO on the board there, right? Yeah, okay.
I am on the MPO, yes.
Can you tell me because I remember vaguely from conversations, can you tell me if there is still any plan in place to use the connector, to connect the Tri-Rail and Brightline using the Northwest 14th Street or somewhere in there, that area? There's an old railway. Is that still part of the plan to try to connect the two?
That's been talked about for years. I don't know if it's actually part of the rail, excuse me, part of the rail plan or not. I don't know.
Okay. The only reason I was asking that is because if you pull up a map, and Ms. Sybil, I don't know if you have a map on the slideshow or not, but you pull up a map of where this whole downtown is, and you pull up the map of the Northwest CRA. The entire southeast region, essentially, of the Northwest CRA is taken up by this new downtown project, it's a significant amount of acreage. I'm not sure how many other, I actually asked Mr. Alfred Kervin before I was elected, well before, because I was interested in finding out about development projects approved within the city. I believe it was sometime summer of last year or even before that. It could have been probably spring of last year. And he provided me with this massive file dump of things, which, thank you. But that's the type of person that I am. I like to learn by reading, and I will ask questions. Recently, I was trying to make room on my computer and/or a file drive, and I had to start deleting some files from different drives that I didn't necessarily need. But one thing that struck me as odd was I started to notice how many projects had already been approved in District 4 for either multifamily or what was that building, the multi-use, multifunctional sort of buildings, and there were a different number of things. And I was just hitting delete, because if it didn't go to District 1, I was just kind of like delete, 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 delete. But as I was deleting, I was noticing how many there were. And I don't know what the number is right now, because I had deleted most of them before I recognized this. But the question is, with everything that is being planned with the new downtown, and with the opportunity zones that we have in the Northwest District, and with the already approved projects and the pending new projects and what's being sold, at what point do we still have the Northwest community? I've watched it happen in the beach area. We've lost people. We've lost a big sense of the community. We've had a lot of wonderful things happen, don't get me wrong. But my district has said we have felt the loss of what we used to have as this little sleepy, beachy area town that we kind of really liked, and that's why we chose it. So I'm wondering what's going to happen to all the folks who don't necessarily have the properties that are in the highest demand and who have been coming for years saying, we need help. We would like you to help us with the bare basics, crime, drugs, pave our streets. We still deal with that, but where's that community? Where's it going to go? And I have a hard problem, so I want to make sure that it's said, because nobody else will say it, so I will. I did have one other thing, though, and this goes back to consultants and everything else. Ms. McKenna, I sat here and was dressed down a couple weeks ago, and I sat here, and I sat and thought about it. What is your relationship specifically with or services provided to RMA?
I don't have one.
Not at all?
No.
And you have not had one?
No.
Okay, thank you. And you are, just in confirmation, the attorney for the Pompano Beach CRA?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You do not have one, did not have one, not necessarily as any legal counsel, any services provided, correct?
RMA is not now, nor has it ever been, my client.
Right, that's not what I asked, though. Do you have what relationship or what services have you provided or do you provide to RMA?
I don't provide any services to RMA.
And did you?
No.
Okay, thank you.
I provide services to local governments.
Okay. Kervin, I'm just going to ask because I was not even planning on doing this today, but you know what? Sometimes things go sideways. Could I have that screen, please, cleared? One down there. I'm going to walk all the way down there for 2 minutes. This guy right here. Yeah, good. Okay. So, this is what I would like to be part of public record.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, if I could ask you to speak in the microphone.
Yep, sure can. Sorry, I'm used to my other one. So this is what I would like to be part of public record. This is expanding, RMA expands services to support CRA leaders on compliance issues. If you go all the way up to here, I've highlighted, and I'm happy to provide this later. It was October 16th, 2023. I highlighted that to keep it legal, RMA has welcomed longtime city attorney Claudia McKinney to their compliance team. That's not actually the best part. I mean, the picture's cute. I'll give them that. This one. With this new CRA compliance review service, RMA will examine current expenditures and educate CRA leaders about the best approach to avoid the danger zones that have resulted since the legislation change. To add to our already stellar team, we are pleased to announce that RMA will access the legal expertise of longtime CRA attorney Claudia McKenna. Ms. McKenna, the issue that I have with this is that this was a blog post, by the way, on RMA's website, which no longer exists on the RMA's website, but it is still in Send to Press. And my favorite part about this entire thing is at the very, very bottom. I didn't come up with this. The news source is RMA. It came right from the source. I'm not trying to be argumentative here. But what I am trying to do is say that I don't lie. I do not present things that I don't have something to back it up with. And I'm happy to be corrected in any way, shape, or form.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, we can't hear Commissioner Fessick. Go ahead, Commissioner, sorry.
But I am not going to stand and be dressed down and say that I have, and take it. I have absolutely had it. Since day one, I heard from you, and I heard from you. Since day one, before I could even be sworn in, I got to sit here and take it. There was a meeting planned last minute for a land swap. There was a meeting planned last minute. Day one, I have felt that I have been in the hostile work environment. And I want to make sure that's very clear. I'm not done, I'm going to go sit in my chair.
And if I may,
Let Commissioner Fett.
So my point is that on every step of the way here, I have fought, and I don't want to fight. I want to work together. I want to be here to do good things. I want to be here to make sure that I can make a difference in the community, because this is a very limited time that I'm about to serve. But in every news article I pick up, in every post from social media, from the CRA that goes ahead, I'm welcome to my opinion, like I mentioned. You're welcome to your opinion. What is not welcome is for Mr. Harrison to allow the CRA staff to post something that's negative about a CRA board member. It is not okay for consultants to badmouth us online. It is not okay. We are city commissioners, we are CRA board members, and we need to be respected. And I am done. So I might be new here, but I'm not that new. I might be new here, but I am not that new. I am 47 years old. I have raised 4 children. I have absolutely had it. And I have reached my breaking point where, let me just tell you, I'm a Gen X kid. And I will just tell you, if you do not know the reference, go ahead, you'll find out. Thank you.
Very good. Ms. McKenna?
yes, Commissioner Fessick, you wrote in the Sun Sentinel that I represented RMA, and you said that I had a conflict, thus eroding accountability. And what I said was, that is not true. And I also said, if you had come to me and asked me about it beforehand, I could have explained exactly what you showed on the screen, and I could have explained who my clients are. What you don't know, because you didn't talk to me, is that I go to the Florida Redevelopment Association and I present a panel about the do's and don'ts for CRAs and what you can do for compliance with the CRA statute. I am considered one of the people in the state of Florida that can be in front of a group and help CRAs understand what they can and can't do with the statute. So I joined the compliance team with this understanding, and that is that any service that I provide would be directly to the local government, because that's who my clients are. I don't work for RMA. RMA does not pay me. The only source of client revenue that I would receive is from a local government, because I am considered in the state of Florida a compliance expert. And I wish that you had just taken the time to pick up the phone and call me, and I would have been happy to tell you that. But it is not a conflict of interest, and I stand by what I said.
It may not be a conflict of interest, but I will tell you right now that it is definitely questionable in terms of morality. Thank you.
Very good. Further commission questions, concerns at this point in time? Commissioner Perkins? No? Okay, I just saw your finger on the button there. I thought. Okay, well, let's go ahead and open it up to the public then. And just for clarity's sake, we're not answering questions at this point in time. This is to give input on the presentation. So please come forward, give your name and address. The questions, staff will make note of the questions, and we can distribute the answers to the questions to the commissioners later. But we don't have time this evening for question and answer. So please come forward, give your input on the presentation, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes and give your name and address for the record. That'd be great. Thank you.
Hello, commissioners, mayor, city manager. I'm Gigi Duback, District 1, and I have a big concern about the proposed plan to relocate City Hall. The building is only 34 years old, which means it's a millennial. It needs a new roof, it needs some remodeling interior, and it's still manageable and affordable. I came from Chicago, and our City Hall was built in 1911. It's a landmark building, and it's in pristine condition because they maintain it perfectly. In fact, they even filmed 2 movies, The Fugitive and The Blues Brothers. I'm sure many have seen them. They're proud of their City Hall. We are proud of our City Hall, the one that's still a millennium. The facility needs improvements, there is no doubt. We can renovate it, not relocate it. This building belongs to the people. We've been told that moving City Hall will serve as an anchor for downtown redevelopment, but an anchor should attract people, create jobs, and offer real value to the community, such as a vibrant business, a major employer that's an anchor. Cornhole games and gimmicks won't drive economic growth or improve daily life for residents. If economic development is truly the goal, then our city's economic board should be focused on attracting businesses that provide good jobs and lasting investment. Our residents want meaningful services, financial transparency, and sound decision-making, not flashy distractions. The city already owns the land the City Hall sits on. Why would we give up that ownership only to lease it back from a private developer? That's a bad, bad deal. It sacrifices long-term control and adds future cost to our budgets. Just ask my neighbors at the Parliament House. They lease the land where their parking spaces are, and they've struggled with rising lease costs and no opportunity to regain land ownership. We should learn from these examples, not repeat them. Let's also consider the numbers. City Hall employs over 1,100 people, yet only 365 of them actually live in the city.
Thank you, Ms. Dubeck. I appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Dubeck.
That means...
Ms. Dubeck, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
You're finished. Next speaker.
Mayor, Commissioners, my name is Ed Phillips. I currently reside at 384 Northwest 19th Street, Pompano Beach, Florida. And initially, I thought I wasn't going to say anything, but this has been an experience here this evening. It really has. I need to say a couple of things as quickly as I can. First of all, I do agree that some folks perceive this as a cash cow and that folks are going to make an awful lot of money. That's what they're supposed to do. But the problem here, the concern here, is that the question was asked, what can you do for the Northwest? Give us part of or some of the opportunity. As some of you may or may not know, I've been in business since 1994 here in the city of Pompano. I own an insurance agency and my wife is a realtor. What we look at is opportunity for the folks who live here. Now, the parade of folks that we've seen, and you know, money making is money making. What EPAT used to stress, myself also, is when you come up here, bring some African Americans who are qualified also. That is missing in this equation. Now, I must tell you that as much as sometimes it concerns me, I agree with Commissioner Perkins, no EPAT Larkins on the north side of MLK Boulevard. I think that is just off limits. That's my opinion. The other part here is I saw the design of, quote, the perceived sketchy City Hall. I really did not like that. But having said that, that's just my opinion. You know, tonight has been very interesting. I think that there's been an awful lot of discussion about the possibility, and it will happen, moving folks from various areas. In that target area, some folks are gonna have to be moved. But the part that happened when I was there is that we ensured that a realtor found those folks someplace to stay. So we should not, you know, not consider that. There's an awful lot going on here, and what we're looking at, what we want to see is opportunity. Now, I got to tell you something. There has been some inklings of movement towards that, and let me back up real quick. EPAT Larkin started all of this. He helped facilitate all of this. As a matter of fact, in the beginning, most of the buildings and the businesses that were removed were under his watch. So, I'm part of history. So I can tell you, but I don't have enough time, of all the stuff that has happened. I do think that the questions that are asked here tonight probably need to be asked. But at the end of the day, you are leaders for the folks who live here, and you must find out and understand what opportunity is for the neighborhood, because opportunity is fleeting. Once it passes you, you may not be able to get it back. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Next speaker. Anyone else? Please come forward. Okay.
Hi, good evening. Lori Cooper, 1031 Northeast 28th Avenue, Pompano Beach. Good evening, and I'm worried and frankly frustrated by the proposal of replacing the existing City Hall and Pat Larkin Community Center. We already own these buildings, and the taxpayers already own the land. Replacing them, selling the land to private developer, and leasing the space back is not progress. It is a step backward and strips the community of control over valuable public property and puts future generations on the hook for unnecessary cost. We've been told the project's about smart growth, but here's the reality. The city wants to sell land that it's already owned and move the City Hall west and lease it back from the developer. That is not smart. That's like selling the farm and renting the barn. And in this economy, with the real estate cooling, tourism down, unemployment up, how is this a responsible move? We don't want to lose these buildings. We want to preserve what we have built and protect the land that we own. We are not against improvement. We are against being left out the process and pressured into a deal that benefits private interest and more than public good. So tonight, I'm asking you to honor us. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, ma'am. Next speaker. Please come forward.
Good evening. Jackie Moreland, 1526 Northwest 7th Lane, excuse me, Pompano. There's a quote by Emil Soba George, and it says, "The greatest legacy anyone can leave behind is to positively impact the lives of others. Whenever you add value to other people's lives, you are unknowingly leaving footprints on the sand of time that live on even after your demise." And I think that's what Mr. E. Pat Larkins did for our community. That building is highly used. And I'm of the opinion I would like to see it stay there and get the renovations that it needs. There's enough money in this city to give us another building in our community. Heck, we haven't gotten much out of all the times that we've asked for things. So why not give us the new center, and we can call it the Northwest Community Center. There's enough money to build what we want to build in our community. You're taking over our community. You're going to come, if this project passed, you're going to sit right on top of us in our community. And I know other people will take part in it, but you pass through. We live in, and it's going to impact us. And what I saw presented tonight, it didn't look good because we were not included in any of this. You all made the decisions for us with this project and all the money that has been spent and that is spending, and we see nothing about this project positively being impacting our community. So when the table was set and the chairs were put out, there was no chairs left for us. And so now you hear the clapping and you hear the moaning and the groaning because we were not a part of this. But it's going to impact our community. This city will use it, the city will benefit from it, but we were not included. And as far as the city hall, I have a house. When I need a roof, I get a new roof, or I don't pass inspection. So we're gonna tear down a building because it's old, fix it. Again, you only use it 3 days a week. And most of the time people come there for permits or whatever. I'm just saying, like, it doesn't make sense. Like, this looks crazy tonight. And it doesn't look like, and it looks like you all don't work cohesively together like you normally do, because you know I'm here and I see it. And it's sad. I see a lot of people in my workplace that I don't necessarily agree with, but I respect them and I respect their position. It's a lot of disrespect going on, and it's sad. Everybody deserves to be respected. We deserve to be heard just like the people on the east side and on the beach. We don't control what goes up, what's erected, and what's put down there. But when we say what we want or we need, it's like, well, you know, we can't ask for certain things. That's not fair. I pay taxes. I live here. I went to school with you. So I'm back here working and serving in my community for the betterment of my community. I'm not going to disrespect anybody, but I'm going to respect my views and what I want as something valued, just like you do. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate your input. Next speaker.
Good evening. My name is Colleen Duncan, 1851 Northwest 15th Street. First of all, we voted Darlene in, Ms. Ellison in, Rex, Beverly, Audrey, and Rhonda. Where is this referee coming from? Where is this referee coming from? Because if we want to vote on anything, we don't have a referee to say yes or no. We should not have a referee. If it's 3-3, it should be avoided. And just like I say, if it don't be passed, he got to haul ass and do what else he got to do.
Very good. Next speaker.
Mary Phillips, 384 Northwest 19th Street, Pompano Beach, Florida. I just have a question. I just want to know, if that City Hall is demolished, what are the plans for that property? That's the first thing I want to know. Is the intent that we're gonna get funds for that property for a specific use? And I don't want this to count towards my minutes, but I would like to know what's the plan for the property, because nobody really has said what the plan is for that property. The other thing is, you know, a lot of people were working from home. Now they're forcing them to go back to the buildings to work. And I know that the city of Pompano Beach has other buildings where their employees are all not in the building, so I think your intent is to keep all your employees in the same building under the same roof. And so because of that, you probably need more space. I don't particularly either care for that particular design. I would have liked to have seen maybe 3 other renditions so that we can make a selection from that. But that's one of my questions. And then the other thing is, I think that we do need to have a new building for our community. The old Pat Larkin City is inefficient for the population growth that we're experiencing here in Pompano Beach. The new building would have more resources for us in addition to the community. The current building is inadequate. It was fine for the time that it was built, but this is a new day, and things have changed. And we have to change right along with it. And we want to do something that's going to be beneficial to everybody, not just Northwest community, but everybody in Pompano, because you know how it's going to be built. Everybody's tax dollars is going in there. It's not just coming from Northwest community. It's coming from everybody, and everybody's going to be able to participate in that building, in the use of that building. So I think it behooves us, if we're going to be spending the money, let's do a great job and build something that's going to be beneficial to the entire community. Okay, the other thing is having City Hall on this side of town would be good. And the reason why that is you want people to come and put their businesses in your community. The perception is it's probably safe. If City Hall's there, it's probably going to be a safe area that I can bring my business in. I had a conversation with D. Pat Larkins before he died. And I told him, I said, well, you know what, this could be a nice street, we can put things in here. He said, would you put your business there? I said, yes. If it was fixed up and developed, yes, I would put my business there. And I want to see our community developed. It's been a long time, and it's time for us to move forward. Step out of yesteryear. This is a new day, and we need to move forward. And taxes are increasing, they're not going down. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker.
Wayne Vereen, 2420 Northwest 7th Street, Pompano Beach, Florida. I'd like to give honor to this commission, everyone in their respectable places. I just want to say I'm for change in Pompano. I always, because I know that nothing is going to stay the same. I'm for change in Pompano. But one thing I just want to say, I live in District 5. My mom lives in District 4. Everyone on this commission have been voted in by the people. Let us keep in mind that the people got you there. We voted you in for that position. And I'm looking at Beverly, Commissioner Beverly, and I'm listening at a lot of things that she's been saying. It's true. Listen to what the people want in their community. It hurts me when I sit back and I look at the east side, the beach get whatever they want. But seem like when it come down to the northwest area, it's like we catching hell just to get what we need in our community. Listen to what the commissioner has to say for her community. We the people, we know what we need. We need affordable housing. We need a grocery store that we can go to. We need a nice restaurant we can take our families to. It's so much that we need in this community. And I always said that we need a seat at the table. We've been asking for a seat at the table. The east side, the beach, they get whatever they need over there. But what about us in this community, Mayor? Mayor Harden, we asking you to consider and listen at what we're saying. I thank you, Miss Allison. I love you. I love all of y'all. I love you too, Audrey. I love you too, Beverly. I love all of y'all. But let's listen to what the people need in their community. You represent their districts. Something is going on whenever we get in a contract and we don't know what's going on. I'm asking this commission right here. I want the city, you know what? Thank you all for coming in to want to better this community. I'm for getting the community better. But one thing I'm not for doing stuff behind the community back, and then we find out at that last minute we don't know what's going on. I'm for change. I want this city to grow, but I do not want us to get something in our District 4 that we don't need. I'm going to say it again before my time go out. We need a grocery store. We need a place where we can go and sit down and take our families to go eat. We need affordable housing. Some of them homeless, they ain't got nowhere to go. We need something for the homeless. We want our community to come up, but we don't want it to be erased. Thank you. We want a seat at the table.
Very good. Next speaker.
Good evening to everyone on the dais. My name is Terry Williams, 757 Northwest 15th Street, Pompano Beach, Florida, 33060. I've been watching you all from afar, Washington, D.C., and also New York. It's amazing what I'm finding. I want to say people are talking about Pat Larkins. I used to meet with Pat once a week during his tenure here before he would go and make decisions about his community. Rex was here, rest of you were not. And speaking about that area where Richard Macon was, he did pay his debts off because I was a part of that process. His children were approached and they fell into a loop in selling that man's property. Peg Leg Jones owned that homes out there, what have you. This was under Pat Larkins, like Ed Phillips said, long time ago. This is nothing new. This was something that he championed, he was for, even in our other areas. And I would like to say that I do believe that the developer is being inclusive, and I'm not on his payroll, and I'm not on anybody's payroll because I believe in law, and I'm sure he knows that. I think that having the meetings, he made you all inclusive, the community, he asked you what you wanted. If someone didn't read a contract, I worked in law a long time. So guess what? It's not the fault of the people when you vote on something and you fail to read it. So that is another caveat. With the commissioner of my mother's district, District 4, when they say that they want things in the community, whether 500,000 or whatever it is, I just want to make sure when you do that with your Beverly Perkins committee, that you do look at all those individuals. My mother's 89 years old. She hasn't been privy to being able to be here. She's blind, so I am her voice. And when she's learning things, my family, who has the largest family in this community, are learning from me. They're hearing things from you all that they are concerned about. So when you give money and you do things, it is the right of each and every one of you that your constituents know about. Whether they come, I know the young man said, we don't know. Well, Pat Larkin made sure you knew. He walked around in the community. He talked all kind of whatever here. And I am a relative. So I have spoken with the person that's over Betty Larkin. Would I like to see change? I want to see something better. You took my family's property. The little White House was there when you got ready to build Pat Larkins. You took my grandfather's property on 7th Avenue. So bring about some changes and do something about it because you took those properties, you pressed those people. They got nothing for it. I want to conclude with this. It's just like in Washington, D.C. Some of you probably don't know. The Pentagon is built on something that was called Queen City. That was a black-owned city. They did the same thing, Beverly. They do it all over the world, regentrificate us, and get our properties, and we have nothing. So if you have somebody speaking to you, go to the table with him, get what you want from him, but do it cordially. Thank you.
Next speaker,
Mayor,
Commissioner Perkins.
everything I do is cordial. Thank you.
Very good. Next speaker. Any further speakers? Oh, here we go. All right, this will be our last public speaker then. Very good.
Good evening, Tundra King, 124 Northwest 15th Street. I've been following this for a while. I was born and raised here in Pompano Beach and worked away for a little while. And it's really disheartening, a lot of things that have taken place with this project. When I say the project got off to a bad start, I can only say that that's to the city, and that's on the city's shoulders, because the first meeting that I attended with Rocal Point, and I think it was another developer, we weren't allowed to ask questions. So here's this project that's gonna be in my backyard that's gonna change the trajectory of my community for 20, 30, 40 years, 100 years to come, but we're not allowed to ask a question. So you told me then that we don't matter. When I saw the renderings from both places, from Rocal Point and the other developer that was there, the only thing that looked like Tundra King was a brown dog. So I knew then that I wasn't included. When we've continued to have these other meetings, even for example with the Cordish Group, yes, they give away some limited funding to help some small businesses, but it's peanuts compared to what they made, again, in a community that's predominantly African American. So we see these things and we want to trust you. I believe in my commissioner. I believe in a lot of you all, but it's like it's not being reciprocated oftentimes when it comes to the Northwest. You know, I don't vote against things on the beach because I go there twice a year. So it wouldn't be fair to me to speak against things on the beach, someplace where I'm not impacted by traffic. I'm not stuck on the bridge. I can drive to 20 hospitals from my house. They don't have that luxury on the beach. So I'm not going to go and vote against something that takes place on the beach because I'm not impacted by it. So I remember that when I sit on PNC. I remember and I try to take to heart those people that live in that community. But I just don't feel that we get the same thing in the Northwest. Our schools are in deplorable conditions. We've begged for a police substation. We haven't gotten it. We've asked to come and sit down to try to come up with a plan for a lot of the crime that's in our community. My mom literally cannot even sit on her garage without someone being there at night in a home that she worked so hard for. So now you want me to take all this information that 95% of it is negative, and then trust you with the next 50 to 100 years. It's just hard to do. So I hope you all just, again, listen to some of the other speakers and what they've said. Our commissioner, I voted for her. I didn't vote for Elon Musk, I voted for her. So I think it's important that we shouldn't have any referees. We should only have the people that we voted for, because that's important. I cast my vote for Commissioner Perkins, and I lean on the rest of you all to do what's right by us, because we've paid our dues. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. It's, public speaking? Okay. Is there anyone else who wants to speak tonight from the public? Okay, this is it, last chance. Okay. Name and address.
Thank you. Carla Coleman, 2631 Northeast 23rd Street. Just want to say a couple of things about City Hall. When I was a kid, one of my favorite cartoons to watch on Saturday morning was the Jetsons. So I thought by this time we'd all be in flying cars. Well, I don't believe that in 20 years we're all going to be working remotely. That hasn't worked out so well. There will be some people who do work remotely, but we're going to always need that City Hall. And we're going to always need an efficient workspace for the employees who work there. And most of our employees will need to work there. What they do cannot be done remotely. We might access them remotely, but they need to be in the office. So I urge you to go ahead with these incredible plans to build a new downtown, to listen to what the neighborhood wants and needs, and to meet as many of those needs as you can, but to go forth with this 30-year plan that I know many of us who have lived here all of that time continuously have been some part of along the way. And I thank you for all the public meetings that you're holding, because I know what it is for you to have to do these meetings, but it is helpful for us to see the updates and to hear the discussion. So thank you.
Very good, thank you. All right, not to be accused of cutting anybody off, but last call for public input. Any further input from the public? Seeing none, public input closed. Thank you for that. Further commission discussion, questions, concerns? Anything you want to get off your chest? Yeah, I'm done. This meeting is adjourned.